Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Moi Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Moi Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Shechazart Nishmasi b'chema Gabo emunasecha Nishmasi b'chema Rabo emunasecha Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Dayani lefanecha Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Nishmasi b'chema Rabo emunasecha Moi Dayani lefanecha Melech Chai v'kayam Moi Dayani lefanecha
JM in the AM. And last week, when we made a commitment during Fundraising Marathon 2015 to increase our bond with the State of Israel for our wonderful listeners. Boy, did we mean it. Here we are on the very first JM in the AM radio program after the marathon in Sderot, believe it or not, with our friends from the Jewish National Fund. We're actually broadcasting today from the indoor playground of the JNF here in Sderot as we highlight some of their incredible work in the state of Israel. Not a foreign concept for our listeners. So many of them are already familiar somewhat with the great work of JNF. And here we are on a Monday morning broadcast at JM in the AM. The weather in Israel just beautiful. And a big thank you to everybody who helped support us again during Fundraising Marathon 2015. A very, very big thank you. We had an amazing finish on Friday. If you heard the last few minutes, you can't help but agree that it was an amazing finish. And I thank everybody who participated during the 2 weeks. And now it's great to be back into our regular format. JM in the AM, I have to acknowledge, before we do anything else, the tremendous tragedy of the Sassoon family of Brooklyn, New York over the weekend. Many are familiar with what happened very late Friday night, very early Shabbos morning in Brooklyn. And those 7 funerals, believe it or not, took place yesterday in Brooklyn and are taking place here in Har HaMenuchot in Yerushalayim today on a Monday. And there's nothing to say. The entire community, the collective Jewish heart around the world, not just in Brooklyn and not just in Israel, but around the world, as we like to refer to it, is in tremendous pain from this terrible tragedy, this horrific episode. And let us hope that there is some comfort down the road for those family members who remain and for all the friends and relatives who are in so much pain after this tremendous tragedy. So that's happening today in Yerushalayim, and obviously there'll be thousands and thousands of people there. The Sassoon family, before Brooklyn, actually lived in the holy city of Jerusalem. So here we are on a Monday broadcast. We're with our friends at the Jewish National Fund down in Sderot as we talk about things that are happening all around the country. And we'll be here, of course, until 9 o'clock this morning, till the Israel show with Mayor Weingarten and plenty more. The video is up. If you go to NachumSegal.com, you can actually see the video up right now with the live stream. ZK tells me that today's miracle was provided by TravelCell. Without that emergency backup system, he would have had a lot of trouble getting that video up and the audio as well. So a big thank you to Josh Melman, everybody at TravelCell, for not just keeping us connected to the United States, but keeping us connected to our radio home as well at WFMU. It is much appreciated. And we'll meet a lot of interesting people here today. I want to give an early morning shout out to Michal Marmari, who introduced herself earlier to us, of the Foreign Press consulting service here in Israel. Just one of the people who's helping us here today at the JM and the AM radio program. And of course, I am joined by Miriam Al Wallach and ZK and PC Guy, as our team is on the road in the Holy Land for this very special trip. More coming up, Monday morning theme song, and then we'll meet some of the guests who we're going to be speaking with today on a very special Monday edition of JM in the AM.
Open your eyes, colors streak the horizon. You take one step into sunshine and you smile. Birds chirping above, the beauty of nature around you. Marvelous wonders around you, it's all very clear, oh so clear. Come join us in this song, let's have fun and command. And all through history, it's been so plain for all to see. Open your eyes, you'll realize Masecha Hashem. Wake up Yisrael, look around and you'll see His vast eternal plan is for us, can't you see? And though we feel despair, that special day is almost here. You are a Jew, it's all for you, Masecha Hashem. Take a look and you'll see a world so full of confusion. You know Hashem's there to guide you when you smile. We hope for that day. Our belief is our survival. How lucky we are to be chosen by you, just by you. Whoa, Morabu, Masecha Hashem. Join us in this song. Let's have fun and command. And all through history, it's been so plain for all to see. Open your eyes, you'll realize Masecha Hashem. Wake up, Yisrael. Look around and you'll see His vast eternal plan. It's for us, can't you see? And though we feel despair, that special day is almost here. You are a Jew, it's all for you, Masecha Hashem. You'll realize Masecha Hashem. Now wake up, Yisrael. Look around and you'll see His vast eternal plan. It's for us, can't you see? And though we feel despair, that special day is almost here. You are a Jew, it's all for you, Masecha Hashem.
Shamayim Shaitain Bilibcho Avasoy Virhosoy V'siyei Ras Hashem Alponecho Kol Yemei Chayecho V'hirotoy Milefnei Avinu Sheba Shamayim Shaitain Bilibcho Avasoy Virhosoy V'siyei Ras Hashem Alponecho Oy Kol Yemei Chayecho V'yitein Lecha Banim Bonim Uvanos Tzadikim Tzadikos Oiskim B'Torah U'B'mitzvot V'yitein Lecha Banim Bonim Uvanos Tzadikim Tzadikos שבשמיים שייתן בלבך אבצוי וירצוי ותהיה יראת השם על פניך כל ימי חייך וירצוי מלפני אבינו שבשמיים שייתן בלבך אבצוי וירצוי ותהיה יראת השם על פניך כל ימי חייך וייתן לך בנים בנים ובנות צדיקים וצדיקות עוסקים בתורה ובמצוות
JM in the AM as we broadcast from the Holy Land. We're in Stay Road with our friends at JNF, and I thought that was an appropriate selection as we take pause after the tragedy of the Sassoon family, knowing that those funerals are taking place in Yerushalayim this morning, or stay this afternoon. We should all think of our own families and the blessings that we have and not take any of it for granted. It's a very important message, obviously, in the aftermath of this terrible pain that the collective Jewish heart is feeling. It's a Monday morning broadcast, JM in the AM. My thanks to everybody who, again, proved to be great supporters of ours during our big fundraising marathon. We're here in Israel today. We are, believe it or not, in Stay Road, in the indoor children's playground of Stay Road, which has a few shelters attached to it. It's a pretty amazing facility, to say the least. You can see it in the background if you're watching now at NachumSegal.com. And Miriam L. Wallach is here. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning, Nachum.
How are you?
Am I on?
You're on,
There
all
we go.
right.
Now I hear myself. Hello.
So what do you ever see a playground like this in your life?
No, it's pretty incredible. It's really incredible. And it's full of youth, and it's full of fun, and it's full of just life. And you would never know. You would never know.
Well, in addition to that,
The way it's been built with the design and the forethought just on the appearances, that it serves as a bomb shelter, and there are secluded rooms where you can have a birthday party in the event of an attack. Everybody is safe in there, and it's really it's a phenomenal space.
Where's didn't we have oh, there it is,
Okay,
right?
you want me to move it?
There's a rocket behind us. I'm not kidding. A real rocket that was, or a piece of a real rocket that was shot here at the People in Stay Road at some point. Thank God we're talking about peaceful times right now and speaking to you from a peaceful Stay Road. The last time we were here in August, you may recall, was a little bit of a different type of atmosphere. And thank God today, here it is, right next to me. That is authentic. And you can see that if you're on the video right now at the homepage of NachumSegal.com. And this is what the folks in Stay Road during rocket attacks go through. This type of rocket is showered upon them, and they are in dire need always of facilities to make sure that everybody can be safe, and that's what's been happening over all these years. Facilities have been built to make sure, shelters have been built to make sure that they're able to run where they need to get to as soon as possible. And here, attached to this indoor playground, you have some of those shelters as well to protect the children.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about.
This
you
is
think?
not a prop.
No, this is the real deal.
It's even got writing on it. I mean, it's a little bit.
Yeah, there's some charm to it.
Yeah.
There's some charm to it, you have to admit. Once it got into the hands of the people here, they were very creative.
It was, yeah.
So that's just one of the thousands that have fallen here in this town over the years. We'll be speaking with many representatives of the JNF and speaking about some of their projects around the country coming up here at the JM and the AM. As we mentioned earlier, Travel Cell gets a very big shout out. Also want to thank our friends at the Inbal Hotel in Jerusalem, who again are serving as our home base as they always do. Stan is in our studio. A big thank you to him, of course. PC Guy and ZK are here on the spot. PC Guy, in fact, was here to make sure way in advance that things would work out well for us in terms of connecting back to the States. I thank him for that. And a special hello to Jody Bodner from JNF, very helpful in this whole venture.
Yes, she's been great.
And to Shachar, if I have it pronounced right, Chermelin, I think that's his last name. Am I right? Hermelin? Hermelin. Shachar, Tadarabah to you for all your help so far. And there's a gentleman who's extremely helpful to us here today.
Shmuel.
That's Shmuel. Shmuel Tadarabah. Shmuel was Johnny on the spot, or as they say in Israel, Shmuel on the spot, when it came to setting up our show here today from Sderot. I thank him very much. We go to some music, more coming up. Ariel Cutler is going to join us. Plenty of guests on a Monday morning from Israel at JM in the AM.
Ose shalom bimromav Hu yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu V'al kol Yisrael V'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen Ose shalom bimromav Hu yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu V'al kol Yisrael V'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen Ose shalom Shalom bimromav Hu yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu V'al kol Yisrael V'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen Ose shalom, shalom bimromav Hu yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen Shalom bimromav Hu yaseh shalom Shalom aleinu Ve'al kol Yisrael Ve'al kol Yisrael V'yimeru Amen. Amen.
Monday morning broadcast from Stay Road. You can watch everything at NachumSegal.com. The video is up. Also, we're here in Israel throughout the entire, through Wednesday. We're going to be in Israel through Wednesday, tomorrow and Wednesday from the Dirshu World Siyum. Today we are in Stay Road with our friends at JNF. Ariel Cutler is here, JNF, Jewish National Fund Development Officer, involved in many projects. A pleasure to welcome you to JM in the AM.
Thank you, Nachum. Great to be here.
You had an observation which we should remind our listeners about. I'm sure we've mentioned this before. And that is, as the rocket was sitting here, you pointed out that every rocket is labeled with where it fell and when it fell, so people will remember where and when it fell here in Stay Road or anywhere else.
Right. Unfortunately, too many rockets. And I think the reason they write the date and the location where it fell teaches us a lot about how they're advancing their development of the rockets, how far they're reaching, how precisely they're hitting the targets.
Right.
And that's kind of why they use it. I mentioned the story that I was with friends from Cherry Hill, the Abramsons, and we were at the Gavim Junction. We went to see the police station, and when we got to the police station, we saw the rocket that had fell less than 24 hours earlier fell in the Gavim Junction. So it's unfortunately it hits too close to home too often.
Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
Chances are we're speaking to some JNF supporters because you've noticed that a lot of different communities in the United States are there on the front lines when JNF needs new projects or even old projects funded.
Well, for sure. First of all, JNF of America built this playground. JNF of America raises $80 to $100 million a year. That all comes to Israel. We are your voice in Israel. We make Israel a better place every single day. And this playground is just one example. Just to give some statistics, some ideas of this playground, it's had over 300,000 children through the doors of this playground, and several of my own. And I've been to the playground while the sirens went off with my own kids here. And I could see the fear in my wife's eyes, having to run. And there's always a lot of staff here making sure within seconds everybody's in the bomb shelters. Right. And it's a scary thing. I mean, everybody remembers JNF from the original days of the blue boxes,
Sure.
the pushkas. And that's why when we finished building this building, you could see we painted it all blue. We call it the biggest blue box in the world. Just instead of putting quarters inside, our entire goal is putting smiling kids inside, giving kids the opportunity to be children. Just
You even
to play.
got the right shade, it seems.
Yeah, pretty much. That was the goal. So,
Very nice. Ariel Cutler is here, JNF Development Officer. One of the things that we always talk about is is how JNF and you encourage others to partner with you. Concentrate on different regions of the country. Blueprint Negev is a project that obviously is there to help expand population in the Negev. We see what's happened in Beersheba. You'd love to replicate that, I'm sure, in many other areas. Give us an update on what's happening in the Negev.
well, so, the Negev is 60% of the land of Israel. Only 8 to 10% of the Israeli population live on it.
Right.
The 20-80 rule, the rule of 80% of the people living on 20% of the land can work fine in any other place. But in a state smaller than the same size as the state of New Jersey, we can't afford to give up 80% of the land.
Right.
And that's why JNF put at the forefront some very important, missions today. Our vision is to get 500,000 Israelis to move to the Negev and 300,000 Israelis to move to the Galil and to develop those areas. Just between us here, okay, as the Orthodox community in America, we concentrated many, many years on the West Bank, which is very important. Which, JNF, there's all these theories. JNF has done fire trucks and reservoirs and parks all over Israel. There's, we're building a museum in Kfar Etzion now for $2 million. So it's not about that. It's about making sure we don't forget about other areas. And we forgot, the Orthodox community, about the Negev. We forgot about the Galil. And when you fly, from Tel Aviv to the Negev, to Eilat, at night, once you go past Beersheba, it's black. It's pitch black. There's no lights. And if we're not there, we know who will be there. And that's why we wrote a plan for the Israeli government called Blueprint Negev 15 years ago and put very clear milestones along the way to measure success. Beersheba was a declining population. A success story for a mother in Beersheba is that her son goes to the army, goes to college, and moves to Tel Aviv.
Right.
There's no future in Beersheba, Yerucham, Dimona, Arad, etc. And that's something we're trying to change. And you know what? This playground, Bezrat Hashem, there won't be one more rocket. If there's not one more rocket, was this a waste of $5 million? And the answer is no. We interviewed a kid here from Sderot named Stav, who said he goes to regional school. He said, I was always embarrassed to tell my friends I live in Sderot. today my friends want to know when they can come play at my playground. Because this place, for those of you who haven't been here on your next trip to Israel, please come visit the Sderot Indoor Playground and, the JNF Indoor Playground in Sderot. By the way, we have a weekly tour that leaves Yerushalayim every Wednesday from Heichal Shlomo and comes here. This is one of the stops along the way. We go to the Ayalon Institute, the Underground Bullet Factory. We go see Beersheva, and we come to this playground. And great way to spend the day in Israel. Come spend it on the JNF weekly tour. It's on our website. You can find out more at JewishNationalFund.org. And you'll come and you'll see kids playing here and having a good time and really enjoying it. And
you talk about milestones and success in the Negev. How do we judge that? How do we achieve those milestones? What can you tell our audience in terms of the progress that's been made? Beersheva, it's obvious, and as you just indicated, plenty of people visit there and see it. What would we see in other areas in the Negev?
So if you go visit Chalutza is an area that wasn't touched. You're going to hear later from Yedidya Harush from Chalutza. He'll tell you he used to live in Gush Katif, and I don't want to really steal everything he's going to say, but I'm sure he's going to talk about the fact that when they got out of Gush Katif, they went to the government and said, what's the next national mission? And the government pointed at the triangle of borders, Egypt and Gaza. Right. And that's where they relocated, and they turned the page. And today we have over 250 families, I believe, living there. It's in the census that was done at the end of 2014 by the Israeli Census Bureau, Chalutza is the highest growing area population-wise in the entire state of Israel. And we believe that in 10 years we're going to have 30,000 people there. And there's an area that had nobody there before. And you go there, and it's real tzionut, it's real chalutziut. By the way, many of the etrogim that you guys bought in New York and New Jersey this year came from Chalutza. The first thing they did when they got out of Gush Katif is they planted etrogim for orla purposes, to wait the 4 years until they could actually sell the etrogim all over. And
I think we were in one of those orchards back in August, if I'm not mistaken.
So they're the biggest exporters of carrots and potatoes, organic, to Europe, and they turned the page. And there's a lot of yeshivot there, and the pre-army Rafi Peretz's yeshiva, Atzmona, is there. Rav Eli Adler, who's from the yeshiva, is very involved in what we do at JNF. He's kind of the leaders there who helped us make a difference and get involved. And we spent millions of dollars there, bringing people to live there and to call it their home.
And how do we judge success up north in the Go North Building Initiative?
So the Go North Building Initiative is actually in its early stages. Last week, we had 85 major donors of JNF of America visiting Israel. We called it our task force mission. And we spread ourselves out around Israel. Groups of 10, 12, 15 people all over Israel. One of the groups was the IRC, which I'll mention in a couple seconds. But the Go North Task Force mission went up north, and we were discussing projects that are going to help bring jobs, going to help bring population to come live in Akko, in Ma'alot, in Carmiel, in the Beit Shan.
No, we're talking about really up north.
Emek HaMa'ayanot. How do we get Israelis to call that their home? How do we get them to consider living there? Because it's not just about living in Yerushalayim, Yehuda Shomron, Tel Aviv, Haifa. There's another very large chunk of Israel that we have to go and settle. It's not just good to go to a Tzimmer for the night. It's good to call it your home and put your roots in. And that's really what we're about, putting our roots in. Everybody thinks of JNF back to the early days when we really put just our roots in with the trees. And it's a misconception that that's all we do.
And when people fund these projects, are you then able to give incentives or help people along, whether it be with education or job placement? Are you able to do that with that?
Well, last week we dedicated in Beersheva the new Ronald Lauder Employment Center in Beersheva.
There you go.
The idea of the Employment Center is to keep the great minds that go to Ben Gurion University in Beersheva, to keep them in the Negev. And it's a partnership between Jewish National Fund.
Because normally they'd go to other major areas of Israel.
Of course.
Right.
Of course. Everybody wants to live in Tel Aviv, right? That's where
and work there.
And work there. But we're working on making them want to stay here, not forcing them to stay here. And we actually see the opposite. We see people who live in Tel Aviv commuting to work in Beersheva. And we're hoping we're going to be able to help them find a home in Beersheva. And when they find a home, we have to help them have the right education, the right job, the right school for their kids, a park, etc., etc., etc. And that's really the full package of what we're doing. It's Nefesh B'Nefesh, which we'll hear later, which is another one of our partners, helps you make Aliyah. But once you made Aliyah, we want to help you make Aliyah to the Negev or Aliyah to the Galil. So we do that in partnership with Nefesh, but we also have other organizations in Israel that help you make that step and make sure it's a successful step.
How long have you been living in Israel?
So actually I was born here. And after I served in the Army for 4.5 years, I moved to Springfield, New Jersey. And we moved back to Israel 5.5 years ago. I don't miss anything about the Gullus except JM in the AM because, you know, you can't listen to JM in the AM in your car at 12 o'clock in the afternoon in Israel and hear you sing Modeyani Lefanecha, right? It just doesn't work at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But it's a treat to be here with you today, and it's great to listen to JM online. But being back in Israel in JNF really gives me an opportunity. Every day I wake up, I know by the time I go to sleep, Israel's going to look a little bit better. And that's really what we do.
And it happens day by day.
Every single day.
It can't happen in one fell swoop. It's got to be a process and a very thought-out process.
So we're running a marathon, not, you know, it's not a sprint.
Right.
Sometimes processes can take years until they come true. But that's really what we do. We try to take the vision and turn it into actuality. And again, I said it's measured. And that's why I said the IRC mission. That was here last week. The IRC is our Israel Review Committee. Review committee. They come to Israel. These are accountants and lawyers who are JNF donors who come to Israel, and they go into every single one of our partner organizations and they rip them apart. They open their books and they want to see where the money went. The money that came from you guys in America and we're spending here in Israel, we want to make sure we're accountable for. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to do that. And that's why we get the highest ratings from Charity Navigator and GuideStar and Better Business Bureau. And it's something we're very proud of. It makes it very easy to, you know, ask somebody to make a donation to Jewish National Fund of America, knowing that his money's protected and we're doing the right thing we should be doing with his money.
As you know, a week from now, there'll be a nice influx of tourists coming for Pesach to Israel. Will those tours that you just mentioned be happening on Chol
Yeah,
Hamoed
of course,
as well?
of course. And I've got many emails from people all over. Shout out to the Israelis in West Orange who send me an email that they're coming on the JNF tour. But really, if you haven't signed up and you're in Israel looking for something to do, go onto the JNF website, look up our tours over Pesach. We're going to have several of them. And besides the tours, you know, go visit Ammunition Hill. We're going to have many activities at Ammunition. It's not just good to go to the Kotel and walk through the Mamilla Mall. Remember that 45 years ago, you couldn't go to the Kotel. And it's about the battle at Ammunition Hill that was the reunification of Yerushalayim. You'll hear later from Yoel Rasby a little bit more about what we're doing at Ammunition Hill and how you could come and bring your kids. So we're going to have challenging activities over Pesach for people to come, rock climbing and a zip line, and I'm sure anybody who goes there will have a good time. So.
Ariel, thank you for welcoming us here today and for being here today. It's much
Thank you
appreciated.
very, very much, Nachum. I appreciate it.
Ariel Cutler, everybody. He is JNF Development Officer and spending time with us in our first hour this morning at JM in the AM. We're in Israel. We're in Sderot. We're in the JNF Indoor Playground in Sderot. Inviting everybody to come and see this amazing facility. As you just heard, you can do so all through the year. And if you're coming for Pesach, you have an amazing opportunity to come and spend some time here with the JNF Tour. You can go to their website for more information. More coming up. Keep it right here at JM in the AM.
Achenu kol beis Yisrael hansunim batzara ubashivya omdim bein bayam uvein bayabasha Yisrael hansunim batzara ubashivya omdim bein bayam uvein bayabasha
Hamakom yirachem Yotziei mitzara lirvacha Umishibud ligula v'nomar amen Hamakom yirachem
JM in the AM, video up at NachumSegal.com if you want to see the video from Israel. That's right, we're in the Holy Land with a big thank you to everybody who helped get us to our amazing total last week during our big fundraising marathon. We told you we'd keep you connected to the Holy Land, and sure enough, here we are in our first JM in the AM radio broadcast after the big fundraising marathon in Stay Road in the Indoor Children's Playground. The JNF Indoor Children's Playground is where we're hanging out and where we're doing today's radio show. Ahuva Holland is with us, head nurse at Alei Negev and a Stay Road resident. Ahuva, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. What's it like living in Stay Road? What would you tell people in the United States who are listening right now about what it's like to live in Stay Road?
This is absolutely our natural place to live. I live here around 30 years.
Wow.
Some of my kids were born here in Kibbutz Givim. He mentioned a few minutes before. We have some very nice times when everything is quiet, and we have the opportunity to live our life.
So you have a lot of very good days and some challenging days.
Some very challenging days.
I can only imagine.
The challenging days makes us more attached to this. It's not fairly.
That's okay. The challenging days make you more attached.
Make you more attached to this region, and we don't see ourselves living other places. This is our home, and it will remain that. It will remain that way.
Most people are not thinking of running away from Stay Road.
Not a chance.
Not at all.
Not at all. Even if we experience here some very, very hard days, like the last war, when I came out from my house, it was the day when the terrorists came out from the tunnel. 500 meters from my house, every ammunition that was in the area was shooting. The helicopters was above my head, above my house, shooting at the terrorists who came out from the tunnel. It was very scary, and I said, what am I going to do now? So the most natural thing to do is to go back home, go into the shelter and stay there.
Right.
But I felt that I can do that, and I went into my car and I tried to get out from this road, and the roads were blocked. But I thought that I have to go to Alei Negev and to be there on these very, very hard days.
Explain to our audience what Alei Negev is and why it's so important for you to have been there at that time.
Alei Negev is a village. We have 135 residents. They live there. All of them suffer from mental retardation in a few levels, and some of them are bedridden. We have also a ward of a little hospital that they are we have their high dependency residents that they need constant care of nursing and doctors like hospital.
We refer to them as low functioning and
very low functioning,
and therefore in need of high dependence.
Yeah.
And 135 residents like that in Alei Negev, and obviously doing a tremendous chesed for them. I mean, one can only imagine what goes on every single day when the people who are working with them. And you felt at that time that with everything happening, that was the place for you to be, that you should have been with the
always
with the residents there. How long have you been there? How many years?
5.5.
5.5 years. And what's the experience like? Does it change your life the same way you're changing and helping so many other lives?
It changed my life, absolutely. I feel totally devoted to this place. We are like it's total. It's a total job. If you are not there, you think about the place. You're being I am in a constant connection with the staff there. I live it 24 hours,
Right.
day, night, Shabbat, holidays, Yom Kippur, whatever.
Right.
Whenever it's needed. If there is a need to go there by night or to be there by from any kind of reason, we are there.
How far or how close is it to Sderot?
It's about 35-40 minutes drive.
And it's in the Negev, obviously.
It's sometimes when can you please fix it for me?
Yes, go right ahead. There you go.
I have to say that during these times that we have a very high tension, sometimes on the way there you have to go out from the car,
Right.
run to the tunnel, going back. This is the reality.
Sometimes it's not the easiest place to live,
Not very easy.
but you would not move.
I would not move. I have grandchildren here in this kibbutz Gevim, and I come here with them to
To the
play.
indoor playground.
Yeah.
Ahuva Tadarabah for being here today. Ahuva Holland is the head nurse at Alei Negev for physically disabled adults and children. And as you heard, would never think of leaving Sderot.
Yeah, and I want to thank the JNF for the tremendous support here in Sderot and also in Alei Negev.
Fantastic.
Thank you
Tadarabah.
very much.
A pleasure. Thank you very much. JNF doing great work all over Israel, and as you heard Ahuva Holland say, in Sderot and in Alei Negev for sure. It's JM and the AM on a Monday. We'll continue with more 9 minutes before 7 o'clock as we broadcast from Israel for these 3 days. Tomorrow from the Nokia Center, where we'll be with the Dirshu World Siyum for both Tuesday and Wednesday's programs, and of course then back in the studio in Jersey City on Thursday. I want to thank our friend, the PC Guy. Many of you know him already. In just 5 years in Yerushalayim, he's become the leading support for all PC and internet needs. If you need a new PC or your existing PC needs a tune-up, you call him. If you need a brand new printer, scanner, fax copier, or have trouble with your existing one, you call him. If you're new to a smartphone or iPad, you call him to integrate your contacts and email. If you don't back up your PC, call the PC Guy. He has an advanced cloud-based backup service that is available worldwide. If you want internet, Israeli phone, and U.S. phone service all from one source with one number to call for support in English, you speak with PC Guy. And if you own an apartment in Yerushalayim and want to have support for your internet when you're not there, call the PC Guy. It's thepcguy.co.il, thepcguy.co.il, or 054-943-6109, 054-943-6109. More coming up from Sderot, Israel on a Monday here at JM in the AM.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. 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 הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל, אמרו אמן. אמן. אמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, הוא יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל ישראל, אמרו אמן, אמן.
Done by the group Revel Sheva. This is America's one and only Jewish Moments in the Morning radio program, heard on listeners-sponsored WFMU East Orange, WMFU Mount Hope, Rockland County at 91.9 on the FM dial, and around the world on the web, jmam.org. We're not going to do our news from Israel this morning, but I can tell you that the funeral, unfortunately, this terrible tragedy in Brooklyn of the Sassoon family, the funeral in Israel, takes place at 3:30 Israel time later today, as our thoughts are with friends and relatives of the Sassoon family and, of course, the survivors of the terrible tragedy in Brooklyn, New York. That seems to have really, of course, caused tremendous anguish to the collective Jewish heart around the world, and our thoughts are with them. In the good news department, the Israeli elections are over. That's the good news. And the jockeying and the negotiating about the next government has already begun. And also we thank all of our listeners who got us to a great total during our big fundraising marathon last week. We're in Sderot with our friends at the JNF, and they've introduced us to Major General Doron Almog, who is the founder of Alei Negev Nachalat Eiran. He is a military hero. He was the first IDF commander to land on the runway during the famous 1976 Operation Entebbe. I'm going to ask every parent in our audience to now turn to their children in carpool and explain the significance of being the first IDF commanding officer to be on the runway at Entebbe, Uganda. Major General Doron Almog, welcome and thank you for joining us here this morning.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
A pleasure to have
I
you.
was also the last Israeli soldier in Entebbe, not only the first and the last.
Now that means what? First obviously means first to land. Last means it's your
That
responsibility to make sure everybody else is out?
No. That means that my responsibility was to mark the runway for more 3 Hercules. We landed 4. At the end, we
Right.
came number 1 by surprise, landed on international light that at that time was operating.
Right.
But immediately after landing, they switch off all the lights, and we assumed that they will switch off. So we landed with some battery lights, and 4 soldiers under my command continue running along the runway, and every 100 meter put battery light, and 6 other with me continue to the new control tower. We killed 4 Ugandan guards near the control tower and took over the control, and then get back to the new terminal. As a matter of fact, there were 2 terminals.
Sure.
The old terminal with 105 Israeli hostages were kept by 7 terrorists, and the main force of Yoni Netanyahu, brother of our Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, main force under command of Lieutenant Colonel Yoni Netanyahu, with 1 Mercedes and 2 Land Rover. We landed together. By the way, we departed few minutes before Yoni was killed.
Right.
My force, the first Hercules after landed, reduced speed to about 20 kilometers per hour, and we 10 Israeli soldiers, paratrooper, jumped outside, and then, as I described, 4 continue marking the runway, and 6 with me continue inside, taking over the new control tower, and then the Hercules accelerated this Hercules until the runway, which is more 2.5 kilometers, stopped at the end, and disembarked the Mercedes and 2 jeeps, the 2 Land Rover with Yoni Netanyahu, 21 soldiers of his unit.
Right.
They continue another 3 kilometers until they arrived the old terminal, which our hostages were kept by the 7 terrorists, and simultaneously they penetrated from all sides to this building, killed the 7 terrorists, and it was over. And unfortunately, Yoni himself,
Right.
on the run from the Mercedes to the building, was shot by a Ugandan sniper from the old control tower, not this one that I took over,
So
which
we-
was about 3 kilometers away.
So we learned a couple of things. First of all, some of the facts in the movie are correct, because some of the things you're talking about I remember seeing in the recreation of the episode, and it seems much larger than any observer like myself or anybody else at the time. It seems like a much larger area than any of us would anticipate.
It's airport, airport, the size of airport, it's runway is about 3.5 kilometers.
It must
but
be
there
that
were
way.
a Z runway, a Z figure. We landed on the new runway, and then they continue driving with the Mercedes and 2 jeeps on the
Right.
other side of a connection tarmac road from the new runway to the old runway. As a matter of fact, the old terminal was a part of the military part. As, for instance, Ben Gurion Airport, which is an international airport, but you got also, in the past, a military part.
Mhm.
So many international airports divided between a civil part and military part. So in Entebbe, as a matter of fact, the one who built the Entebbe airfield was Solel Bonet, few years earlier.
Which was very helpful, right?
It was helpful because we got the program of
The blueprints.
yes, the engineering program, but also we got 24 hours. 24 hours before the operation, there was another clandestine operation by a Mossad agent who arrived by light airplane and landed at daytime. I'm speaking about Friday, July 2nd. The operation
Was Saturday
started
night,
July
Sunday,
3rd,
right.
Shabbat,
Right.
Saturday.
Right.
We took off from the military part of Ben Gurion. But a day on
Earlier.
July 2nd, Friday,
Yeah.
one Mossad agent landed in Entebbe with a light airplane, Cessna, something like that, and he ran along the runway and did many pictures, ground pictures.
Nobody ever
From
saw
the
him.
cockpit.
Nobody
no,
ever.
no, 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 nobody interrupted. No, he got calls while landing, but he did pictures, many pictures, and first time we got land pictures before the operation. We flew from Ben Gurion Shabbat, 11 a.m. We took off from Ben Gurion, and then we landed in Sharm el-Sheikh about 12:30
Right.
p.m. And then in Sharm el-Sheikh, last preparation, last briefing, taking over the Ugandan uniform and black in the face and pep talk, and then we got pictures, real-time pictures. Were real, not real-time,
Not
but
like today, but
picture
right.
of yes, but the much different
Right.
from soldiers' point of view, much different between engineer program 10 years earlier, which is nothing, it's a paper and some lines, but pictures. You see the terrain, you see the cliffs, you see the bush, you see the building, you see how it looked like it from the ground, because you fly 4,000 kilometers, we land in a pitch dark in a place you never been before, and then you need pinpoint navigation, arriving, and on you need to be very accurate without wasting 1 second.
Right.
And very well coordinated between the force. We did a preparation, of course. We did the Friday, July 2nd. We did exercise, all the forces on the ground, coordinating.
And you're looking at those last-minute photos on the plane, obviously.
Yes,
On the
it was-
Hercules.
yes.
Major General Doron Almog, founder of the Alei Negev Nachalat Iran, and he was the first IDF commander on the runway at Entebbe. So what do we learn about preparedness from the Entebbe raid? What do we learn about being
I want
prepared?
to shift from Entebbe to what we are doing here in South Sderot, not far away, Alei Negev, Nachalat Iran.
Right.
Bibi Netanyahu, our prime minister, visited Alei Negev a few years ago. At the end, Alei Negev is about the most severely disabled people, disabled children in Israel, maybe in the world. It's hard to see, but that's what we do. We give them the highest life standard and quality of life. And when Bibi ended his visit to Alei Negev, he said, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Prime Minister, I flew with your brother Yoni to Entebbe. Yoni gave his life for one reason: saving Jews that were kept as hostages. 1 week from their life. 1 week, that's all. But here in Israel, we have people like my son, for instance, Eran, who passed away 8 years ago, but born with severe brain injury. We have here in Israel people who are hostages of our society, some from birth, some from accident, some from disease. We need to stretch hand. We need to save them. We don't need Hercules. We don't need special units. We need compassion. We need our heart. And we need a social Entebbe operation. That's what we need to do for these people. And Alei Negev is all about. He was moved and he continued assisting us many times. I think last time was graduation of a new Israeli pilot here not far away in Hatzerim Air Base. And the first time, Chief of Air Force, Major General Amir Eshel, a friend of mine, sent 40 invitation for Alei Negev to bring, first time, severely brain damage, to sit just behind the stage in this graduation ceremony of a new Israeli pilot. On the stage, 4 people, that's all. The Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, Chief of Staff, Chief of Air Force. Behind them, 20 brain damaged children together with me and staff and a caregiver, one-on-one,
Right.
and then the parents, and then the audience. And after this ceremony was over, it was very moving ceremony. New pilots, you see the
Can only imagine,
F-16, F-15, aerobatic, and the most powerful ceremony that the IDF, the Israel Defense Force, can produce. And the parents and so on. And then it's over, and the Prime Minister came and bent on his knees. You never seen. I can show you a picture here right now. The Prime Minister with a tie on his knees, like asking pardon from these children. the purest in our society. Those children and people never done wrong to anyone. The most righteous people, the purest on our planet. And he took some pictures, and later the chief of Air Force and chief of staff, Benny Gantz. That was very moving ceremony. On the same date, at night, same night, Prime Minister Netanyahu wrote in his Facebook, "Today I saw the most powerful event of the State of Israel. From one side, the graduation of new pilot
Right.
and the top technology of the State of Israel, and from the other side, I saw the commitment to the weakest members in our society." That's all. And he put some pictures, including this picture that.
And as leadership has said before, the way we treat the weakest is an indication of the type of people we are.
Absolutely.
No question about it. Why is this project so important in general to the southern part of Israel? Because there's now a partnership between...
It's a partnership between the JNF and Ale Negev Foundation. It's Negev. You know, the Ben-Gurion, our first prime minister, vision was flourishing, making the desert bloom.
Right.
And Negev in the state of Israel is about 60% of the land. Only 8% of our population living in the desert. We need to bring more people. We need to populate the Negev. We need to conquer the desert. That's what Ben-Gurion said. Ben-Gurion said, if we do not conquer the desert will conquer the state of Israel. So it's about bringing more people. It's about a national effort, which the Israeli government doing right now. 3 military big bases are shifted from the center of Israel to the south. About 30,000 soldiers, about 7,000 families moved from the center of Israel to the south. Our prime minister speaking many times about Beersheba as the capital of the cyber. Why the cyber? Because the computer base of the IDF is moved from the center to Beersheba.
Right.
So we are going to enlarge the Negev. Ale Negev, which started as a village for severely disabled children, but today giving rehabilitation right now for about 4,000 people. Ordinary people coming from all over, from Sderot, from Beersheba, Ofakim, Netivot, all the kibbutzim, moshavim. If suddenly happen to a family member, broken leg, accident, whatever, they need hydrotherapy, physiotherapy, computer therapy. Also, they arrive to Ale Negev. So Ale Negev is a center. We give right now 230 jobs, and we're going to increase it in the next few years to about 1,000. We're going to build rehabilitation hospital. The JNF is a partner. The JNF with the same vision, conquering the desert.
They're talking about a $25 million hospital.
Yeah,
project for the Negev area.
25, as a matter of fact, it's more. 25, it's a matching deal. It's a matching with the government. Half of the money coming from the Israeli government. Ale Negev, as a matter of fact, is based on a matching funding deal formula between the state of Israel or the government of Israel and our foundation, Ale Negev Foundation. So we need donors to bring half of the money, and the government. So the government did the first governmental decision just few months ago, giving the first 36 million shekel by matching. I need to bring, which is about $10 million. I need to bring together with the JNFs and Jews all over the world, not only in the United States, but the United States is the most powerful and wealthy community. So we call the JNF our partners. Come on, join us. Let's make it. It's about Negev. It's about bringing more people. It's about make the desert a better place for the state of Israel. And of course, it's about expanding the health services for the whole community of south of Israel.
Right. It's going to have a major effect on this area, that's for sure. An absolute honor to meet you and to have you on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Major General Doron Almog, founder of the Ale Negev Nachlat Iran, and as you heard, somebody who has a tremendous effect on what goes on in terms of the present and future of the Negev region, and was the first IDF commander to land on the runway at the famous 1976 Operation Entebbe. I am begging every parent out there to please tell your children how significant it is that Major General Doron Almog was on JM in the AM this morning. I am asking you to please let them know just how significant it is, because many of our children do not know about the Operation Entebbe and how important historically the operation was, and we would hope and we would really enjoy if you would be able to tell your children all about it. All right, we have another guest with us live, this time via telephone. Oh, sorry about that. We will get that guest live via telephone in a moment.
Voicemail.
Want to take this opportunity. Hang on with that, ZK. Sorry about that. Want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who made today's show possible. The video is up at NachumSegal.com. You can watch what's going on. And a big thank you to all of our listeners for the great success of our fundraising marathon last week, over the last 2 weeks, in fact. A big shout out to Danny Goldberg, who's taking care of our social media and really helped plan our visit here today, and I thank him for that. Really worked on today's lineup. A big thank you to our friends at the Inbal Hotel, who are serving as our home base again, as they always do when we're in the holy city of Jerusalem, or when we're based there. A big thank you to our friends at Travel Cell, Josh Melman and company. They're going to be providing phones and internet service for a lot of people as they head to Israel for Pesach. And he is responsible for us being connected to the United States, and in this case, really being connected. It was his miraculous backup system that got us a great, secure line today. All right, we have with us live via telephone Dorit Friedman of Nefesh B'Nefesh, Director of Strategic Partnerships for Nefesh. Dorit, welcome back to JM in the AM.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. Nice to speak with you. We, of course, just did a great show with Nefesh B'Nefesh from their big Aliyah Mega Fair in New York City, and a lot of our listeners are familiar with what's going on. I wanted to speak to you about two areas this morning. One is the Lone Soldier Program, and the other the Physician Aliyah Program. First, explain to this audience why the Lone Soldier Program has been such a success with Nefesh B'Nefesh.
Okay. The Lone Soldier Program started as an organic idea to help individuals who were making Aliyah and were serving in the IDF for the full course of service, yet were completely alone in Israel, alone without family. And it's one thing to come to Israel alone, but it's unforgivable for a soldier to be lonely. So just as we were helping Olim in general with a very customized family approach to Aliyah, we were approached several years ago by an individual in California who called us up and said, I know what you do for Olim in general. There are several boys from my neighborhood who are coming to Israel to serve in the IDF in combat units, and they have nobody in Israel. Could you help them? And at the time, we sat, as my husband was a lone soldier in the first Lebanon War, and I sat with him and I said, how would you build something that would be the most wonderful answer for a soldier who's coming to serve by himself? So he said, first of all, when soldiers get out on Thursday nights, Israeli soldiers, they go back to be with their families, to be with their girlfriends. The lone soldier has to look for a laundromat. Often Shabbatot, they're alone. They're tkassim, they're army ceremonies. Many of these lone soldiers actually get distinctions for their heroic acts or their outstanding soldiers in their units. And then people do not come to their ceremonies. So it's very lonely. Here comes the Israeli families with their food and the festivities and whatnot, and the soldier's by himself. So we set up a program that would dedicate whatever we can to help the soldier from the moment, but even before they entered service, till after they were released. And for that, we started out with sending packages and arranging for buddy families for those soldiers that wanted. And we do social events. So then when soldiers get out on Thursday nights, they have events that they don't have to look for other ways to connect. The events are there for them. We create programs around Chagim, and anything that a soldier would want, we're there for them. We send them SMSs. We created a department that's made up of former lone soldiers themselves. And this program was addressing 350 to 400 North American and British Hayalim Bodedim Olim, lone soldier Olim, every single year. Well, the quality of the program caught the attention of the IDF, and they came to our offices and they checked us out, and we are audited from the Israeli government, from the U.S. government, and there's a tremendous amount of accountability, which they really liked. And they looked at us and they checked us out and they said, we want you to do this for all lone soldiers from around the world. It's one thing for the American and the North American soldier to get this type of service, but the IDF is all about equality of service. And we want the soldier from Moldova, from Ukraine, from South Africa, from Guatemala to get the same love and attention that you give. And now our program has jumped to caring for between 900 to 1,000 new IDF soldier olim every single year that hail from 62 countries from around the world.
And as that number goes up, you're prepared to do even more, right?
We are prepared to do even more. And to that effect, we've also arranged that we hired a multilingual, multicultural staff. We have former lone soldiers who were from the Ukraine, from Russia, from France, from South America, and of course from English-speaking countries. Because it's not just that you have to be able to give them what they need, you have to understand where they're coming from.
Dorit Friedman is with us. Nefesh B'Nefesh, of course, JNF and Nefesh B'Nefesh are nation building together. We've focused on how the two organizations work on so many different things together. We are asking you, in addition to the Lone Soldier program, about the Physician Aliyah program, because this is really, and it's funny how much of today's conversation already has been about medicine, hospitals, etc., and medical programs. Your goal is to bring physicians to every area of Israel, north and south.
Well, let me even backtrack before that. Let me just tell you that probably something that's an unusual thing to say is that a Jewish country is actually experiencing a shortage of doctors.
Who would believe it, huh?
This is something you can't believe. So the situation went in waves. In the 50s, there were too many physicians,
right,
and there were physicians that could not find jobs in Israel. Well, now, after the aliyah of 1 million individuals from the former Soviet Union, and 100,000 of them were infused into the medical system, those doctors are now retiring, and they're moving on. Israel does not have a sufficient number of medical schools to produce the number of graduates to attend to the growing needs of the population. And so there are certain specialties which are actually acutely shortage. And we are looking to try to change that. Now, in the 13 years that we've been around, we've brought 43,000 individuals to Israel.
Wow.
And just like the Lone Soldier program grew out of an organic national need, so too did the Physician Aliyah Fellowship. We have very close connections with the Ministry of Health, and we are in the Knesset all the time, whispering in lawmakers' ears to try to make the situation better. And we have a very healthy relationship with them. They turned to us and they said, perhaps you can partner with us to help us infuse into the Israeli medical system qualified, trained, and skilled physicians. In 2009, all of Israel's medical schools at the time, 4 of them, produced 400 graduating med students. In our 10 years of working in this program, we have brought over 400 skilled, trained physicians, many of them specialists, already to Israel. And like you said, we're looking to attend to specific national needs. They can be found in almost every hospital, in almost every clinic across the country, and in the IDF Medical Corps. And we are specifically looking to send physicians to the frontier communities in the Galil and in the Negev. You bring one doctor to the south, you are transforming the area. One anesthesiologist, one neonatologist, you are transforming the whole area. The Arava does not have an OBGYN. So you can just imagine that the impact of an individual who decides to say, I'm going to come to Israel to build my life, but wow, what an impact I can have.
Unbelievable. You guys are doing tremendous work. It seems no matter who you call for, in this case the physicians, no matter who you call for, they're always there to answer. And in the hundreds they've answered in this case. Kol HaKavod, it's amazing the work you're doing. Our best to everybody at Nefesh B'Nefesh, and continued success with all these types of programs.
Can I just say one thing?
Certainly.
That the relationship between JNF, Jewish National Fund, and Nefesh B'Nefesh is absolutely natural. Jewish National Fund has been the caretaker of the homeland for the past 113 years. And they have helped build this country into the thriving country that it is. And now, partnering with Nefesh B'Nefesh to infuse skilled, talented, idealistic individuals to build these communities is what it's all about. And we together are owning our destiny.
Dorit, well said. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
There she is.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach, and thank you very, very much. Dorit Friedman of Nefesh B'Nefesh with some important words about some really important programs that are going on with Nefesh B'Nefesh and JNF. Much appreciated. Well, we're going to wrap up this half hour with Amit Cohen young leadership of Beit Shan. How many of us have visited Beit Shan? How many of us know people up in the Beit Shan area? But believe it or not, people in Beit Shan, as they grow older, did not always want to stay in the Beit Shan area. And JNF and people like the young leadership of Beit Shan under the leadership of Amit Cohen are trying to change that. Amit, welcome to JM and the AM.
Welcome. It's my first time on radio, so
far you're doing very well, I must say. It's starting off very nicely. So explain the situation. People grow up in Beit Shan or the surrounding areas. Until now, they were not always anxious to stay there.
And you describe our major problem. Basically, I came here all the way from Beit Shan in order to explain and to emphasize you how our dream has become a reality, thanks to, first of all, to JNF and our mayor. And I mean that 1.5 years ago, our group, young adult group, it's in Hebrew, it's like Tzair Ba'ir, was established as a result of a meeting between our mayor and JNF representative. And they want to examine why there is a process of brain drain in Beit Shean, a process of talented young adults, residents that don't consider Beit Shean as a place to live in, as a place to raise children and a family.
Right.
And I'm talking about most of the residents don't consider Beit Shean as a place. And we asked ourselves, after several meetings between our core group members, why? Why nobody sees Beit Shean as a place to live in? And we traveled all around Israel. We met young adult groups from Afula, from Tiberias, Dimona, Natzrat Elite, Yerucham. And we heard lectures from professors about the consequences of what we want to build in Beit Shean. And we realized, after we succeeded to formulate our vision to improve the quality of life in Beit Shean, that in order to improve the quality of life, we need to give a basket of services, a meaningful tools for the young adults in order to keep him in Beit Shean.
Right.
And our dream is to build a young adult center that will be a comprehensive platform for the needs of young adults aged 18 to 40. And our target population is actually when the young adult reach to the age of 18, he's going to the army. Then he had 2 or 3 years, then he hesitated and decided what he's going to do with his life.
Right.
After it, he became a student, and after it, he became a young parent. And especially in Beit Shean, the average age of wedding is 24. So we need to take it in a... so we think that in order to keep this young adult in Beit Shean, we need to give them those meaningful tools. And what do I mean? What it includes? First of all, we want this center contain an enrichment center and learning center for students, like a place that they can prepare for the tests, a place that young adults can meet, sharing ideas, like a hub place that can create a networking. We don't have it in Beit Shean right now. Second thing that we want is social cinema club, because the nearest one located in Haifa, it's like 100.
That's the closest?
The normal nearest one, and it's 100 kilometers from Beit Shean. And you think about that, a family needs to take a day off from work to only to see a movie, and we don't want them to spend a lot of money on gas and tickets. We want them down the road here in our young adult center. And we had a lot of ideas of like a coffee shop, because in the long term we want to be economical independent and we don't want to rely just on donations. And social involvement, because we need to find a way to strengthen the connection with the community. And we did it in the last 1.5 years. Our big success is like half years ago. For the first time, we were able to produce an opening academic event for students. And we did it in restricted resources and minimum budget. And we think that it was a big success. More than 250 students came to this event. We explained to them about how meaningful this young adult can be for their lives. And we want to keep them in Beit Shean.
So they're interested, they just have to realize that there's some future there.
Yeah, and what is amazing about it, that we were exposed for data about Beit Shean for last year. And it's amazing because Beit Shean, we were exposed for data about apartments, new purchased apartment in 2014, and
Right.
Bet Shean located the last in the list. And also in second-hand apartment. And what is absurd about that is Bet Shean is almost the cheapest place to buy an apartment. So why, if Bet Shean is almost the cheapest place to buy an apartment, why nobody is buying?
Of course, they should be.
And we realized that it's not all about the money. We need to give a meaningful tools to the young adults to enrich his social life. And we think that we have a rail station next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
And we have tax incentives for workers. And if also the cheapest place. And if we will give these young adults the meaningful tools, we think that we can make them stay in Bet Shean. We can make them think once again.
Amit Cohen, Young Leadership of Beit Shean. Maybe there's somebody listening today who wants to fund a project in Beit Shean. It sounds like you're very sincere in your effort and that you're making a lot of progress up there.
Yeah, and I want to say thanks to all our group. We are comprising 14 members. We are a volunteer group. All of us are residents of Bet Shean. And all of what we have done in the last 1.5 years is because we love Bet Shean, we care about our city, and we want to change this reality that we are facing right now.
Kol hakavod. Thank you so much. A pleasure meeting you today.
Thank you.
Amit Cohen here at JM in the AM. So far, a very interesting program as we continue from Sderot. We're in the indoor children's playground here in Sderot, courtesy of our friends at JNF. We'll, of course, dedicate Rabbi Goldwasser's words to the memory of those members of the Sassoon family who perished over Shabbat. That funeral takes place here in Yerushalayim at 3:30 this afternoon. And, of course, so many of our thoughts are with the friends and relatives of the Sassoon family after this terrible tragedy. Here is Rabbi David Goldwasser with Morning Chizuk.
Good morning. We learn in the Talmud in Brachos, Abba Binyamin says that if two people come into shul to daven, and one finishes first and leaves without waiting for the other one, then the Talmud tells us taraf, his tefillah is ripped up. The Ben Ish Chai comments that in ancient times, many shuls were located in isolated areas. If an individual would leave his fellow Jew alone, he would be placing him into danger. Therefore, if two people entered a shul, and one left without waiting for the other to finish his tefillos, then his prayers are ripped up. What is the idea that the tefillah is ripped up? Why isn't it merely discarded or pushed away? There is a lesson to be learned. The letters of the word taraf, which means to rip, are the same as the letters for the word peret, which means an individual grape. A peret is a single grape that has been cut from the vine, as opposed to being part of a cluster of grapes. Bnei Yisrael are compared to a cluster of grapes because all of Klal Yisrael are linked together. Like it says in Shir Hashirim, we are compared la'ashkolos, to clusters. The people of the nations of the world, though, are separate. They are compared to individual grapes. When a Jew is in danger, chas v'sholom, fellow Jews also feel the danger and will never leave him. If one does abandon his brother, then the person shows that he sees himself only as a peret, just a sole grape who is apart and separated from the vine. During these times, each of us in Klal Yisrael knows that we are a part of the cluster. Our hearts and our tefillos go out to our brothers and sisters in Sderot, an Israeli border city located less than a mile from Gaza. It has really borne the brunt of the rocket attacks since the beginning of the year 2000. To date, official records indicate that over 4,048 rockets and 4,040 mortars have been fired against Sderot in the western Negev. It is especially poignant at this very moment that eloquent spokesman for Klal Yisrael, Nachum Siegel, is in Sderot. We know that his presence there is a source of great inspiration and encouragement for our brothers and sisters who face such a difficult situation daily. Achenu B'nai Yisrael around the world stand in support of the brave and heroic Jews of Sderot. Nachum is a shliach tzibor for all of us. With him, he brings the tefillos, the heartfelt wishes from Jews throughout the world for success and victory. May we soon see in the days that are spoken of in Yeshayahu HaNavi, of Lo Yisa Goy al Goy Cherev, v'lo yilmedu oid milchama. When nation will no longer lift up sword against nation, nor learn the art of war anymore. This has been Rabbi David Goldwasser, bringing you Morning Chizuk. May we hear of Besuras Tovos about all of Klal Yisrael.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Goldwasser. And as we said, we dedicate Rabbi Goldwasser's words this morning to those victims of the terrible tragedy in Brooklyn, the Sassoon family. That funeral takes place on Har HaMenuchot, those funerals, I should say, at 3:30 this afternoon. We're in Israel. As we promised last week during our fundraiser, we continue to strengthen the bond between our audience in the state of Israel and our friends at JNF. And I want to thank Russell Robinson, Jody Bodner, Shachar Hermelin, everybody who's been so instrumental in getting this radio show put together here on a Monday in Sderot at the JNF Indoor Playground in Sderot. I want to thank everybody. Moshe Geffen is with us. Moshe Geffen is an Oleh from Boston, Massachusetts. He's a firefighter in Ashkelon, Israel. Many of you are familiar with the practice of donating equipment and donating funds for equipment for different Israeli rescue services. And we're very good at that in many areas. But sometimes in this area, we need to address the issue of aging fleets of trucks and inadequate equipment, which makes the firefighter's job even more difficult here in Israel. Many of you are not aware of the fact that the equipment has to be state-of-the-art and up-to-date, and all donations, of course, are welcome for that effort. Moshe Geffen, welcome to JM in the AM.
Thank you for having me here.
Nice to speak
Welcome
with you.
to Sderot.
I appreciate that. Are you familiar with how much snow there was in Boston this winter?
I've heard about it. I spoke to my family there, heard what went on in New York.
Ashkelon had more snow than Boston or less snow than Boston?
I say thank you. I live in Israel. I hate snow. It is too cold for me. It is not for us firefighters.
But
no.
you didn't answer my question. Was there even a centimeter of snow in Ashkelon this winter?
Yes.
There was?
I work usually in Kiryat Gat. In Ashkelon I worked and we had major winds there, a little bit of snow.
Oh.
I wouldn't even give it an inch, but it was cold. It was cold, and we went flying off, blowing off of buildings. We couldn't use our crane, but we worked hard those couple of days.
Yes. Well, in Boston it was a few months. Anyway, thank goodness it's melting everywhere at this point. This is one of the, and I say it this way because I hope this is not taken the wrong way. When it comes to certain types of emergency equipment, it seems that World Jury is very good at providing it and funding it for Israel. But when it comes to other types, sometimes it's forgotten. And when it comes, I believe, to fire equipment, firefighting equipment, sometimes we're a bit neglectful and we don't realize how it has to be kept up to date and state of the art.
It has to be at the top of the line. I'll give you an example. Right after the Carmel fire, the JNF asked if I could fly to the States since I speak a good English. And help raise monies for the fire department. I came back to Israel and helped arranging a couple of trucks. And we're not talking about the small pumpers, we're talking about large, regular American pumper trucks. And one of the trucks came to a city I was working in at the time, Kiryat Malachi. Now, part of the new equipment that came in, now that's something that's standard in all trucks in Israel, is part of our breathing unit, we have a mask. We have our own personal mask, and we have one for the person we have to rescue.
Right.
Something that we didn't have too many in Israel.
Basic equipment, for instance, in the U.S.
Exactly.
Right.
And a week after this truck came in, the truck was donated by Dr. Viterbi from California. A week after the truck came in, my friend had a fire. Now, we're not only short on equipment, we're also short on manpower.
Right.
At the time, the city of Sderot, or the city of Kiryat Malachi, there were 2 firefighters on shift. Try and imagine a fire, a 4-story building, and you're 2 firefighters. You got to do all the jobs that in the States now with the fire of the Sassoon family. Let me just tell you, we heard about it Motzei Shabbos, and there was nothing else but all firefighters were at the screen looking at pictures that were on YouTube and on the different broadcast.
The news channels.
The news channels. And the thing that's going through our head is that little prayer that goes through every firefighter's head when he goes into a burning house. It's nothing to do with his safety. I have on the inside of my helmet, I was thinking the whole time, what can I put in there? And one of the things I put inside is Ana Hashem Atzlichana. That's what goes through every firefighter's head is, if there's someone trapped in there, let me get to him faster, let me get him out fast. And I can only imagine what those firefighters went through. But on that fire there were, the Israeli media said there were 100 firefighters working.
Right.
The same type
Correct.
of fire, first 20 minutes would be 2 to 3 firefighters in Israel.
Right.
And go back to what happened with the Viterbi truck. A week after the truck came in, we are learning, installed equipment. It's a touchscreen pump in the back. All right, all high tech, and we're learning
Different than what you were used to.
Exactly. I'll soon get to the truck we used to have beforehand. And they go in and they rescued 3 children and 4 adults. There was a fire in one of the electric boxes in the building, and the thick smoke went up. The firefighters didn't see a thing. But because that they had these masks, they got to rescue the kids.
Right.
Now, they said they went into the apartment. The apartment is just as full of smoke as anything else. Now, there's 2 firefighters. They're running up and down the steps. They did not take out a drop of water until they got everyone out. And at that point, they had already changed their air balloons. They saved because of the new equipment. This is, I'm talking about right away, within a week.
Right.
You're already saving
Right.
people. And this is the truck I know about.
Right.
I can't tell you about all the rest of the trucks, but you
Right.
can imagine.
And all over Israel, obviously, these are needed.
Yes. It's equipment that's the top of the line. If it's, for example, one of the women working for JNF is Yael. She arranged donations for equipment for volunteers, for teenage volunteers. And these volunteers turn later on into firefighters. The station I'm working right now, there are 2 firefighters who used to be volunteers before.
Well, where are you based?
I'm based in Kiryat Gat, but I belong to the Ashkelon region, which
Right.
means
you could be
during-
anywhere if something happens.
Sderot is one place they always send me during battle. All right, all operations. I was based in this city here. The excuse I give my officers is I have the experience from Gush Katif. I was bombed there. Let me keep on being bombed here. My wife doesn't agree with that, but
they accept your strategy.
They're always looking for someone to volunteer for something stupid. No, I'm kidding. But most firefighters will be always on the first line doing these things.
Right.
Just that most live in Ashkelon and they want to be close to their families if something happens there.
So if you did this in the United States, it's obvious that our listeners or anybody who's in the U.S. or anywhere around the world could do the same thing. I mean, you're essentially raising money to keep the equipment in every firehouse in Israel as advanced as possible. Simple as that. And if someone wants to donate for that purpose,
let me
then
tell
obviously
you
they
about.
can
I told you before. I'll tell you about the truck I used to have
Right.
before this
Yeah, yeah.
Viterbi truck.
What was
okay?
that like? Have a
It was a
feeling we-
Mercedes,
we
first
used-
of all.
We used to see it in silent movies, maybe?
Oh, close. First of all, it was a Mercedes, just from the year of 83, 84.
More advanced than I
Yeah.
thought.
Let me just ask you a quick question. What type of car do you drive?
I drive a Honda Odyssey.
Horsepower?
Oh, I have no idea.
Over 130?
I have no clue.
All right, more than 130, because usually, for example, all the electric cars.
Hang on a moment. ZK? Over 130? It's got to be, right? Yeah.
All right,
okay.
this truck had 130 horsepower.
It was acting like a regular car.
And it's supposed to drive 3 tons of water, not including equipment.
And men.
And what men? We remember 2 firefighters.
Right, 2 firefighters.
Okay. The joke about it is that it had air conditioning system. It was called a 2x44, 45, 2 windows, 45 miles per hour. Okay. This was a truck we had to drive. You're laughing, but now try and think about it running into a car accident,
course.
and everyone is passing us.
Of course.
All right. We were ashamed to turn on a siren.
Hitch a ride.
We'd get there faster. Okay? These new trucks save lives on a daily basis. All right? During the operations here in Israel, if it was a Tzukeitan Ofer Tetzuka,
Right.
excuse me for translating that to English. There's a limit how good my English
It's
is.
fine. What did we have? Cast lead and what do we call the most
What was the
recent
other one?
I forgot already. What
I
was
don't
this
know.
past summer?
I like the missile, the rocket system, the
Cast
Iron
lead
Yarmulke.
and
Opera-
protective edge.
Protective edge. They called it. All right.
Edge.
No.
There you go.
I like more the name of the Kipat Barzel, Iron Yarmulke.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one.
And also, here in Sderot, the 2 trucks that are here are JNF trucks, and they run from call to call, saving lives. Again, because of the top of the line equipment that is on them. It's like equipment that before they could only dream of. And in a way, one of the times I flew to the States, the first time I flew with Ariel Cutler, and he arranged for me a couple hours in the rescue 2 teams of
What city was it in?
FDNY.
Oh, in New York.
Yeah. Oh, those guys they're amazing.
know what they're
they're
doing.
amazing. Swear like sailors, but they're great people.
Right.
And I see the equipment they're using, and I comparing it to what I have now. That's good stuff.
Right.
But again, not all trucks are that way.
Right.
All right, we're still some of the newer trucks have the new equipment. The older trucks we're still stuck a century behind. All right, when it comes to ladders, every ladder, they're very expensive, and buildings, the prices of apartments in Israel isn't cheap, so everyone builds high. Kiryat Gat, for example, we have 5 buildings with 14 floors, and we don't have a ladder in the building. All right? Which means we all have to keep in shape running up steps. But now this is full gear, and you have to hope the elevator works.
You know what one of the problems is with the PR in this area is that Americans or other people around the world never look to Israel as a big firefighting place. You know, whether it's the stone of Jerusalem or whether, you know, the way buildings are built here, or the impression that, you know, firefighters are in their firehouse and barely ever have to come out, and they can sleep in their pajamas, that type of thing. That's always been the impression here. And you're telling us this is not true at all. It's exactly the opposite.
Firefighters in Israel, first of all, you have to remember that 80% of people that are injured in fires is from smoke.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if your house is made of stone or wood.
Right.
The first respond has to be to smoke.
And you got to save the person's life.
And you have to save the person's life. 2 weeks ago, I had a fire in Kiryat Gat. Same story like with the Viterbi truck. Just that my partner that was with me did not have the mask on his breathing unit.
Right.
And he did something that some would call stupid, some would call brave. And he took off his mask and gave it to
save the person,
the adult that was running down with him the steps. All right, he's back to work, thank God. All right, but on one hand, you have the parents, the person that he saved, giving him big hug and thanking him, and then you have the officers, which are right. What did you do?
Right.
You risked yourself here. Okay, I was running up and down the steps, and I see that we lost one manpower off the manpower. Remember how many people I told you we are on shift? We were 3 people on shift that night. Okay, so it's also manpower, it's equipment, but we're working our best to do better.
Moshe Geffen, he's from Boston, Massachusetts, a firefighter in Ashkelon, Kiryat Gat, Sderot, and many other areas of this area of Israel, in this neighborhood of Israel. It's interesting that we're having this conversation just after the news that you spoke about, which really affected the collective Jewish heart around the world, the Sassoon tragedy, and maybe, who knows, maybe there's somebody out there who would actually dedicate fighting equipment to their memory to Israel. Would be an amazing... And they used to live in Israel, by the way. The Sassoon family is from Israel.
Yes.
And that would be quite a gesture.
If you don't mind, I just want to add something quick. While I was in the States, one of the things I told people there, I would end my spiel with last couple of words, is saying, usually when someone comes to you with a business offer, he's offering you give X amount, you get X amount. I said, exactly. Right. I was also offering an investment, but just that mine, they don't see a dime back. But they are part of us in saving lives. When we go into the fire, it's with their equipment. It's with equipment that they help us use. And by us having that equipment, we could save more lives. And I would really want to thank from here everyone that helped us until now.
You just described why it's such a good investment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We earn...
and you want people to keep investing.
Yes. You know what? No. I want all the credit for myself. I'm telling you straight out, I want all the credit for myself. But since it won't happen without help, so yes, I have to ask for partners. And the people of JNF are just amazing. If it's from Russell that gives you the best feeling in the world and helps you out any way possible, if it's Ariel that it was always there, and Yael, Alon from Israel also, all these people from JNF do an amazing job helping out not only the firefighters, but everyone else. And I want to thank them from here.
And we thank them as well. Kol hakavod to you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Pleasure meeting you.
Moshe Geffen, everybody. He's a firefighter in this region of Israel and has great praise for the JNF, and as you heard, for very good reason. Watch our video right now live at NachumSegal.com. We continue with more from Israel right here on a Monday at JM in the AM.
Im eshkachech Yerushalayim Oy tishkach yemini tidbak lishoyni Es Yerushalayim Harosh Simchasi Im Lo Yale Es Yerushalayim Arosh Simchasi Im Lo Yale Es Yerushalayim Arosh Simchasi Im Lo Yale Es Yerushalayim Arosh Simchasi Hayimesh Yerushalayim Hamaitishkach Yemini Oitidbach Lishoyni Hayim la yale Es Yerushalayim Harosh Simchasi Im Lo Yale Es Yerushalayim Arosh Simchasi
JM in the AM. Before 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, and we are live in Stay Road at the JNF Indoor Children's Playground, which has shelters attached to it. It's a pretty amazing facility, frankly, built by JNF to help with the situation here in Stay Road, because they always seem to be, when the rocket's falling, it always seems to be Stay Road first, and most often, as we know from past experience here. Yoel Rosby is here. Yoel is liaison for the JNF Ammunition Hill project. Ammunition Hill, of course, this is another thing that parents out there could discuss with their children, just like Entebbe. Ammunition Hill was featured prominently in the Six-Day War, became the historic site of the battle for the reunification of Jerusalem. JNF, along with the municipality of Jerusalem and the government of Israel, is assisting in the development and renovation of the Ammunition Hill Memorial Site. and there's a lot of stuff going on there. Yoel Rosby, welcome to JM and the AM.
Hi, thanks. Great to be here.
Let's start, before we talk about the historical aspect, let's keep in mind that a week from now, a lot of people are going to be landing in Israel, a lot of our listeners, to spend Pesach here. What can they do at Ammunition Hill during Chol HaMoed? Then we'll go back a little bit to the history of the area.
Right. Well, to talk a little bit upon that is the fact is Ammunition Hill is, after all, a memorial site. We talk about the reunification of Jerusalem, the fact that you came to the Mamilla Mall and there was barbed wire over there. You couldn't pass. Imagine going down Broadway and right before Times Square you can't pass. You have to stamp your passport. And we're still talking about that, but we want to keep it relevant. We want to keep it alive. We want to keep kids not just going to another museum. So we have guides going through the trenches talking to the kids, and then we fit them with laser tag gear. And we say, you know what, you're the Jordanians, and you're the IDF side, and I want you guys to come and start working through the trenches. And then they have a great time, and they enjoy, but most of all, they open up to listen. We bring them down afterwards. We talk to them. We say, you know how it felt when you were coming around that corner, and you were scared you were going to get, shot by the other side. And they're saying, yeah, it was a little scary. Well,
so it's a real combination of history and modern-day activity.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you have a large family visiting, who gets to be the Jordanians and who gets to be the Israelis? Just out of curiosity.
I leave that to the parents to decide over there.
How do they choose up sides? I'd like to know.
I'm usually, for some reason, I'm always on the Jordanian side with them. But
Really?
what am I going to do?
Imagine that. All right. So now, how do people get information about joining you on Chol HaMoed? How do they get information
So
about
we are on Facebook, Ammunition Hill Memorial Site on Facebook. We also have our website, www.g-h.org.il. But mainly Facebook, Ammunition Hill Memorial Site.
And
everything
if they
is there.
search it, they'll find it online.
They'll find
Simple
it.
as that. All right. Some of the things and projects that are part of the Ammunition Hill project, the Wall of Honor, plaques honoring or memorializing people who serve or have served in the military of any country. What does that mean?
That's a very interesting project. It was a vision of Russell Robinson, the CEO of Jewish National Fund. Basically, the story of Ammunition Hill is a story of heroes. It's a story of values. And there's a common denominator all over the world. Jewish combatants that fought for their respective homelands, and that's that they fought as Jewish combatants. So Ammunition Hill, being a symbol of those values, is a place that any Jewish combatant that fought, from the Indian Army to the U.S. Marines to the Royal Canadian Air Force, can honor his loved one or himself or any honoree. It's a wall of honor, not a memorial wall.
Right.
A lot of live honorees there that are on the wall that can honor their service as a Jewish combatant in their respective homeland.
Very interesting point, because not everyone had the privilege. Not everyone who wanted to be a soldier had the privilege of being a soldier for the Israel Defense Forces.
Right.
Some
Both
were-
my grandparents were in the U.S. Army in the World War II time, and it's something very, very special. It's a project very close to my heart for that reason, because when they fought overall as Jewish combatants.
There will be a commemoration memorial hall in addition to that, right?
Yes, there will be. It's opening Jerusalem Day, May 17th. This year, in a few short weeks.
And that will include the name of who?
Of the 182 IDF soldiers that fell in the reunification of Jerusalem.
All right.
When David HaMelech came to Jerusalem, he had a bigger idea than getting a good iced coffee in Mamilla Mall, having a hotel named after him. You know what I mean? And
one for his son.
And what we're trying to do is show everyone that comes to Jerusalem. It's a short light rail drive or a 5-minute drive from the old city. You should see what it means to be there, what it means to walk through, and not just see Gap and Aroma, but rather that you see how we got here 47 short years ago and how there's no barbed wire anymore.
And the Jordanian bunker, what's that all about?
The Jordanian bunker. It is a phenomenal story. It's unbelievable. Against all odds, we still study it in commander school. I'm an IDF reservist. We still study that exact battle till today. We don't understand it. There was... HaKadosh Baruch Hu really had a hand there. That's all I can say. But the fact is that it's in the movie. You're going to come to Ammunition, you're going to hear it. But it's an unbelievable story of how two soldiers that didn't speak a word of anything but Hebrew got in and got through the over 16 Jordanians that were barricaded in that bunker. Unbelievable. It's in the movie. You're going to come. You're going to see it. And it's a great time. I really invite everyone.
Unbelievable. Ammunition Hill, I guess we can call it the centerpiece of the battle for Jerusalem.
It
right?
It is.
And it is, and it continues to be a project that it sounds like it continues to expand. You're adding more, both on the fun side and the historical side,
right,
for people to enjoy and for people to learn about. And it's all, of course, with JNF. And information about spending part of your Chol HaMoed Pesach at Ammunition Hill and some of their fun activities. You can go to their Facebook page.
You can go to the Facebook page, Ammunition Hill. You can search for it.
And you'll find there all the activities that will be offered during this coming Chol Hamoed, just a couple of weeks from now. I thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, and Chag Kasher v'Sameach.
Yoel Rosby. He'll be seeing everybody, all of our American friends at Ammunition Hill this Chol Hamoed. It's America's one and only Jewish Moments in the Morning radio program, heard on listeners-sponsored WFMU East Orange, WMFU Mount Hope, Rockland County at 91.9 on the FM dial, around the world on the web. It's jmnam.org, normally broadcasting from the Sonia and Robert Gold studios in Jersey City, New Jersey. Today we're in Sderot at the indoor children's playground, which has shelters attached to it for the children and adults who might be here during a rocket attack. We know, of course, this past summer when we were here, there were many of those. Thank God it's been relatively quiet recently, Baruch Hashem. So everybody out there hopefully is paying careful attention this morning and learning about some of the projects that the JNF is involved with, including this one where we sit today. Also wanted to thank some of the people responsible for today's broadcast. A big thank you to Jody Bodner and Shachar Hermelin, Russell Robinson, the CEO of JNF, to our very own Danny Goldberg for keeping track of things over the last couple of weeks, and of course today as well. A big shout out to Josh Melman and our friends at Travel Cell, who I am told are responsible for us being able to finally broadcast today and to make the connection that we needed in order to speak to you today from Sderot. So a big thank you to Josh and everybody at Travel Cell. You can go to Travel Cell's website to check out what you need and get what you need for the upcoming trip to Israel that you might have scheduled for Pesach. I want to thank everybody at the Inbal Hotel, our home base in Jerusalem whenever we come here to Israel. A big thank you to Stan in our studio, to ZK and PC Guy who are on the spot with us here. PC Guy is available to you at thepcguy.co.il, thepcguy.co.il. And a reminder that the Israel Show with Mayor Weingarten, including all of the election coverage and explaining how the polls got it wrong and all that other stuff, is coming up with Mayor starting at 9 o'clock this morning, right after JM and the AM. Tune into the Israel Show live on jmandtheam.org, and where you can see the video right now in NachumSegal.com. Simple as that. Yedidya Harush is with us. Yedidya is the JNF Chalutza liaison, located in northwest Negev on Israel's borders with Egypt and Gaza. Chalutza was founded in 2005 by a group of families evacuated by the Gush Katif communities of Atzmona and Nitzarim during the disengagement from Gaza. Yedidya Harush, welcome to JM and the AM.
Thank you so much.
A pleasure. Shalom. What was it? I assume were you part of that group that was thrown out of Gush Katif?
Correct.
And you were living in what city then?
The community of Atzmona.
In Atzmona. What was it like the last few days there?
Good question. It wasn't so easy. It wasn't good. It felt like we're being in a dream and not reality. And especially after having to leave after so many years our community and our home, especially in such a place where we were fighting against the terror all these years, it wasn't so easy.
How old were you then, if I may ask?
It was my 17th birthday.
Huh.
It
what a
was
way
the
to
day.
celebrate, huh?
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I would guess that every family that was thrown out of Gush Katif had to make a decision if they were either going to, be sad and depressed or try to, build things in a different area of Israel.
Correct.
Obviously, we know what your decision was, because it sounds like immediately you and others like you went ahead and decided to build another area of Israel.
So right after the disengagement, we say after we got out of those gates of Gush Katif, the people had the decision to make, like you mentioned, and some took the negative side. Some chose not to be part of this country, and some chose to go to hotels and cry for 5 or 6 months. And we chose to see ourselves moving and building as soon as possible. And like they say in JNF, we decided to turn the page.
And in what area of Israel? Describe to our listeners. I know it's near Gaza, near Egypt, but where is it exactly?
It's the triangle border near Egypt and Gaza. If you look down on the map of Israel, right below the Gaza Strip, where the Egyptian and the Gaza border meet, and the Israeli border. So
you're how many miles or kilometers from Gaza?
From Gaza, I would say we are about 3 miles. From Egypt, we're less than a mile.
And how large is the
less than a quarter of a mile.
And how large is the community now?
We started off with 30 families back in 2005, and the government didn't give us much hope. We had 2 preconditions with the government. One was that it would not be just a refugee camp for people from Gush Katif. We had a vision when we went there. It wasn't just building Israel, it was building an area. And the second was that it's not going to be an isolated community in Israel. And we started off with 30 families. Today we're 250 families in 3 different communities, mostly not from Gush Katif. And that's our idea. We're the fastest growing area in the Negev today.
What are the 3 communities called?
Naveh, with 100 families, half of them live in permanent houses already.
Wow.
And Bnei Netzarim, another 100 families with 50 families who moved into permanent houses. And Bnei Netzarim and Shlomit, which is the newest community with 50 families that just broke ground 3 years ago. Shlomit's going to be the biggest town of the area. With
How large can it get?
We're hoping that in 10 years we'll be 30,000 people.
It's pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
With how many families now?
We're 250.
250.
2,000 people. We have large families.
And you think it can get to 30,000 people?
We are sure we will get, because if we got from 30 to 250 in less than 5 years of being in permanent houses, because as you know, to build a whole new community from the ground up takes a lot more than just a few days.
Right.
It took us a few years. So we believe, because we have a vision, and we're not alone. By saying we're not alone, I mean that we have JNF on our side. And
how have they been helpful?
Well, they've been involved with us since day one, helping us develop the ground, and then helping us build the synagogue, and then helping us build the parks and the kindergartens and the schools. And our flagship project on the moment is building a brand new medical center that will give services to the area. You have to understand, if you want to get a family from Ra'anana to move down to the Negev, and you bring the mom, and she gets to the community, and she looks around, and she sees that there is an education system for her kids, and health service for the family, and beautiful park, she knows this place as a future. That's what it is. And I can tell you that the people in Chalutza are very, very passionate, very, very optimistic, and very, very enthusiastic about building the Negev. And we know that Israel's is today's biggest national mission. And I gotta tell you, when we, and I say we, it's the modern Orthodox community, always focused on Yehuda, Shomron, and Gaza, which is important, very important, we forgot about the Negev, which is 60% of the land of Israel with only 5% of Jewish population. And we're changing it. We're changing it, and we're making the dream come true. And we're the new pioneers of 2015.
You're doing quite a job at it, I'll tell you that much. And the vision that you have for the future is pretty remarkable, that's for sure. And it seems that every time we speak with anybody from any developing city in this country, it seems that JNF is either behind them or partnering with them or doing something, giving them some type of project help.
The thing is about JNF that they are not donors.
Right.
They are partners.
Facilitators.
When JNF comes in and they are partners, meaning they come in and they say, we think your medical center that you're planning is too small, because if you think big, you gotta think ahead for the next 10 or 15 years. So we take the plans and we change them. We had a meeting with the CEO of JNF a couple weeks ago, and we showed them the plans. And he said, I'm not a big doctor, I'm not into the health system, but I think it's too small if you wanna be, if you wanna think big. You can't be just practical. And we took the plans, and yesterday actually we got the approval to double the size, to have a dental clinic. We're going to have a big yoga room. We're going to have a pharmacy. It's going to be the full package for a health service. And that's what we do in Chalutza. We're pioneers, and we build Israel, and we do good. And I learned a lot of my Zionism being in the States. I received the basketball scholarship to play in Highland Park, New Jersey after high school. And when I got to meet the Jewish community in America, and I saw how they look up to Israel, I came back to Israel a lot more Zionist than I was.
Very interesting. Well, you're doing great work here. Kol hakavod.
Thank you.
Continued success in building Chalutza and the surrounding areas.
Thank you.
That is Yedidya Harush. Yedidya Harush is doing a lot of great work here, as so many are. And we say kol hakavod from all of us here at JM in the AM. More coming up. We're in Israel in Sderot on a Monday at JM in the AM.
אדון עולם שכל נעלם גלויות לפניך בורי יוצר מאורות אדון עולם שכל נעלם גלויות לפניך בורי יוצר מאורות דביר קודשך אומנם במרומים ופתוח לבאים בחיות אדון עולם שכל נעלם גלויות לפניך אור יוצר מאורות אדון עולם שכל נעלם גלויות לפניך בוראי יוצר מאורות נועם זבח צפון לצדיקים הנהרגים בחרב וכפיות אדון עולם שכל נעלם גלויות לפניך בוראי יוצר מאורות אדון עולם שכל נעלם גלויות לפניך בוראי יוצר
JM in the AM, David Dardashti with a song entitled Adon Olam. We're in Israel here at JM in the AM in hour number 3. That's right, we are continuing our commitment to strengthen our ties with the state of Israel. We just had a review of Yeshiva League Sports with Yedidya Harush. Wait till everybody finds out that I met him here. He was reliving some of the memories of 10 years ago from the Yeshiva League back home. Anyway, Rabbi Lior Sinai is here. He is the co-executive director of the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, powered by the Jewish National Fund. It's a premier teen Israel experience. Rabbi Lior Sinai, welcome to JM in the AM.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. Where are you from?
Originally Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York.
Are we family?
Brooklyn, everyone. If you're Brooklyn, everybody's
That's
family.
it.
Come on.
The second capital of the Jewish
either
people.
that or the Lower East Side.
Right.
Guaranteed you're related to half the people out there.
Right.
So what is the Alexander Muss High School?
The Alexander Moss High School is a pluralistic international abroad program here based in Israel. We bring high school students from around the world.
It starts in 9th grade? Or?
No, it's actually, we prefer 11th, 12th graders,
11th,
but we'll
12th.
take 10th graders. Look, they're coming here for an extended amount of time, so there's a level of maturity we expect them to have.
Start in 9th, right?
It started in Miami 43 years ago, 1972, with a Rabbi Leva Shalom Morris Kipper, who said, we need to have an academic program in Israel, not just a summer camp in Israel. And he organized this at the time with the Jewish Federation in Miami, and they put that together. And since then, over 24,000 alumni. The program is spread out throughout North America. We get 150 students from Australia. I'm now working with the Jewish community in Istanbul, Turkey. And our goal is to grow from 1,000 students a year to 5,000 and become the premier international academic program in Israel.
This may sound like a crazy question, but because of the relatively high-quality Jewish education in the New York, New Jersey area, do you have less of a percentage of students in that area, or not
I think it's
necessarily?
more because of the competition.
Right.
There's just
a lot of schools.
A lot of schools. Parents, of course, are they're kind of hesitant
Right.
about sending their student during high school. If it's a junior year, then there's SATs,
Right.
which we provide all of that.
Really?
And at the end of the day, our students who do come during this period of time and leave as alumni, they're our ticket. They vouch for our academic standards, for all the services we provide, and the college prep piece, right? You come to campus, colleges like to see that a high school student has had experience living abroad.
Could you imagine? You walk in and say you were 3 years in Israel.
Right,
That, I guess that would be pretty impressive. Rabbi Lior Sinai is with us. Where is the school located?
So we have two campuses. One is in Hod HaSharon, 10, 15 minutes north of Tel Aviv, depending on how fast you drive.
Right.
And one not far from here is Eshel Hanassi. So we have these two beautiful, beautiful campuses. And it's not for more than a year, actually. We have semester programs, so it's an abroad program. They come for a semester. We work with their home high schools. We have 20 day school
Are they
partnerships.
cooperative, the day schools? Are they
Oh,
the
yeah.
high schools?
Oh, yeah. Well, the day schools, for sure, the private schools.
Right.
And then we also work with the public high school
Right.
system.
And they're all into the idea.
They're into, as long as we're an accredited institution. So all the general studies that any high school student takes by us is received and transferable to their home high schools. So we teach the same curriculum and textbooks that they have, whether they're from Oregon, Mississippi, Florida, and so on.
Are they necessarily doing it in Hebrew, or can they get a lot of help and have English courses
No, that's
here?
a great question. The courses are taught in English. We're known as an American high school in Israel.
Right.
But for example, we had a day school from Vienna, and they requested that it be taught in Hebrew. So we teach in Hebrew.
Easy enough, I guess.
Exactly.
Right? It's Israel, after all.
So we're a service provider. So we need to be able to provide not only all the courses, not only the IPs and ABs and all the APs and the high level, but all the languages as well.
Do you take responsibility for youngsters during, I don't know, vacation, weekends, etc.? How does that work?
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. These kids come to us for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We fill their
You're like an
schedule.
Av-Bayit.
Gam v'gam.
Yeah.
Gam ima v'gam abba, and
Right.
everything else that they need. And their teachers and their educators, they're 24 hours a day with us. We fill up their itinerary with part of their itinerary is a trip to Poland, because we teach the chronology of the Jewish people from Avraham Avinu to, I guess now it's Bibi again.
All the way from Avraham to Bibi.
That's right. And Poland is part of that chronology of our history and what happened in Poland, and the same thing goes with the whole country. Israel as the classroom.
Very interesting. So they get, I guess, a lot of field trips and a lot of experiential education. As we
Just
call it.
imagine taking primary sources to where things actually happen. There's
Right.
no better teaching than that.
So you walk around with a Tanakh. And,
Gam v'gam.
and there you have
Like
it.
Ben Gurion.
Exactly. Rabbi Lior Sinai, co-executive director of the Alexander Moss High School in Israel. How do our listeners get information about this project, about this program?
Great question. So we are at amhsi.org. AMHS, like Sinai, I.org.
Okay.
And we are a program of the JNF.org, JNF USA. We have staff around the country, directors of admissions covering the entire country. So they are always ready and happy to answer phone calls, to come and visit, to organize prospective parents meetings. We have a whole marketing team and campaign in place. So we are set to support any questions and field any
There must be
issues.
many alumni who say that this program changed their lives. There's got to be.
We say we skew the pew. You know that whole pew result thing?
Right, the Pew
So we
research.
skew it, okay? And I can tell you that for a fact because we did have a survey out there for our 24,000 alumni, and out of them, I can tell you that over 75 to 80% of them, for example, married someone within the faith.
Right.
77% of them are members at shuls. 65 or 70% sit on boards of
I
Jewish
wonder how many have
organizations.
moved to Israel.
We do have alumni, close to, I think, 200 that have made made Aliyah, that have served in the IDF, that have made Israel their permanent home as a result of it. But that's not our main goal.
Understood, but
our
still,
main
it's
goal,
a byproduct, right?
We want to make sure there's a next generation that is prepared and carry the mantle of Jewish continuity and Israel connectivity around the world.
Right.
Wherever they may be.
How large is the program right now for this school year?
We have 971 students.
That's amazing.
I think that is, but we have a lot more to do.
You won't stop till you get to how many?
5,000.
Wow.
That's our goal.
Kol hakavod. Rabbi Lior, is it Sinai or Sinai?
Well, we're in Israel, so Sinai.
Toda rabba. Rabbi Lior Sinai, co-executive director, AMHSI. If you search online, you can get information about all this. If it's an 11th or 12th grader, then certainly they're
10th graders too.
And 10th also,
Sure.
but the 9th graders can wait a year. And then
We'll
they
give
can
some
come
time.
visit. Toda rabba. Thank you
Toda
so much.
rabba lecha. Batzlacha.
Amazing stuff we're learning this morning. And this high school, the Alexander Weiss High School, is powered by the JNF, by the Jewish National Fund. Kol hakavod from all of us here at JM in the AM. I want to thank our friend, the PC Guy, who's your one-stop for all your technology and needs in Yerushalayim and many of your technologies worldwide. If you need a brand new PC or your existing PC tuned up, you call him. If you need a brand new printer, scanner, fax copy, or have trouble with your existing one, you call him. If you have a radio show to set up and you need someone to go into the field in advance to check things out, you call him. If you need to back up your PC, even if you're not in Israel but anywhere around the world, he has an advanced cloud-based backup service, which is pretty amazing. If you own an apartment in Yerushalayim and only visit twice a year, he could take care of that for you as well with support for your internet when you're not there. Contact the PC Guy, thepcguy.co.il, thepcguy.co.il. Big thank you to Shmuel, who helped us here today. Thank you, Shmuel, at the indoor playground in Sderot. If you're watching, the video is up right now at NachumSegal.com. Thank you to Jody Bodner. Thank you to Shachar Hermelin. Thank you to Russell Robinson, the CEO of the JNF. Tomorrow we will be live from the Nokia Center as they get ready for the big Deer Shoe World Siyum. That's where we're going to be tomorrow. Make sure to join us for that between 6 and 9 a.m. Should be a very interesting few days for us right here at JM in the AM. The Y Studs are next at JM in the AM.
2000 שנה אני נודד, מחפש את הארץ, אני אוהב. כל יום מחדש הלב נשבר, כל יום מחדש אולי מחר, מתי הגאולה? אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח בארץ ישראל של אהבה. בכל יום שיגיע והנה זה בא, אהבת ישראל בנשמה. כל בוקר ציון אלך אני מתפלל, לא ינום לא יישן שומר ישראל. כל יום מחדש אני אוהב, יום מחדש עם כל הלב, שלום על ישראל. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח בארץ ישראל של אהבה. בכל יום שיגיע והנה זה בא, אהבת ישראל בנשמה. אני מאמין של אהבה בכל יום שיגיע הנה, הנה זה בא אהבת ישראל בנשמה
JM in the AM. We're live here in Stay Road at the Indoor Children's Playground in Stay Road with our friends at the Jewish National Fund. And Ben Gutman is here from New Jersey, described to us as a JNF lay leader. He and his family are members of the Century Council of JNF, and he's president of the Northern New Jersey JNF Board. Ben Gutman, welcome to JM in the AM.
Thanks. It's nice to be here and see you in Stay Road.
I appreciate that very much, and welcome to you today. Tell us about some of the projects you've been involved with recently. I know that Nofei Prat is one of them. Describe it to our audience.
Well, we built a park. Our family built a park dedicated to my grandparents that were killed in Auschwitz, and they don't have any memorial to them there, obviously. So we decided to do something for the children of Nofei Prat, and we built a park there.
And that is quite a memorial, to say the least, here in the state of Israel.
And every time we come to Israel, we try to go to Nofei Prat, not just to see the park, but to interact with the people who tell us it helped change the lives of the children there.
How long have you been involved with JNF?
12 years.
And what was the first initial, entree into the organization?
Well, that's a good question. In 2003, I told my wife that for my birthday, which is in March, that I was going to go to Israel. It was the middle of the Second Intifada, and she told me, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm going to go to Israel, and I'm going to find a tour that's going, and everybody else but JNF canceled their trips to Israel, and JNF decided we don't care how many people are going. We're going, and I went with them, and was very impressed by all the work that they're doing here and became more and more involved over time.
Very nice. The first impressive thing was that they didn't cancel the trip, as you indicated. Ben Gutman is here. The Biblical Garden, where is it, and what purpose does it serve?
Okay, we're building the Biblical Garden in an organization called Lotem, which makes nature accessible to those people with special needs, all kinds of special needs. It's in or near Yokneam. The farm is called Emek HaShalom, and that park will help children with special needs get out in nature. There's going to be a part about the creation story, the 7 days of creation, so people that might not otherwise understand all those things will have an ability now to appreciate.
What do you suggest when you go back to New Jersey to friends and family about what they should come and see in Israel, and specifically about the JNF projects?
Well, first of all, I tell them if they're involved with JNF, they really can't understand what JNF is doing until they come and see. But we have another problem, is just trying to get people to come to Israel. So for my 60th birthday, when we dedicated the park in Nofei Prat, we brought 50 friends and relatives with us to see what's going on in Israel.
That's the way to do it, huh?
Yeah.
One way to increase tourism.
Increase tourism and hopefully increase Zionism.
No question about that. How's the northern New Jersey area in general doing when it comes to Israel and the JNF? You're head of the board. What kind of feeling do you get from the later leadership there?
Well, I think we're doing very well, but, northern New Jersey is very diverse. We have a big Orthodox community in Teaneck, Englewood, and Fairlawn, which we're trying to attract. We have conservative synagogues all over and Reform, and we're trying to reach out to all of them, and we're making progress. But there's a lot of competition for people's philanthropy dollars.
No question about it. But we would think Israel would have a leg up, hopefully.
Well, that's what we think, too.
Right.
And JNF is Israel. So if we can get people at least to understand what we're doing in Israel and hopefully eventually come and see what we're doing in Israel, then I think we have them.
It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
I appreciate that. Ben Gutman, who has, along with his wife Susan and children, are visiting Israel, and they are part of the Century Council of the JNF, and they have quite a recommendation to everybody, and that's come see what these projects are all about, and how much and how amazing some of the things that are going on in Israel actually are. More coming up. This is JM in the AM.
אני לעצמי ואתה לא איתי, מה אני כשאני בנפרד? כי אני יהודי לא הולך לבדי, רק איתך ידידי יד ביד. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, כאיש אחד בלב אחד, לא רוצה להיות לבד, רק לנצח שבט אחים גם יחד. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, כאיש אחד בלב אחד, לא רוצה להיות לבד, רק לנצח שבט אחים גם יחד. להיות משפחה זהו סוד השמחה, כי ביחד הכל טוב יותר. ואנחנו שרים כל ישראל חברים, על אף אחד לא נסכים לוותר. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, כאיש אחד בלב אחד, לא רוצה להיות לבד, רק לנצח שבט אחים גם יחד. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, כאיש אחד בלב אחד, לא רוצה להיות לבד, רק לנצח שבט אחים גם יחד. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, כאיש אחד בלב אחד, לא רוצה להיות לבד, רק לנצח שבט אחים גם יחד. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, אם נצליח לאהוב ונשיר הנה מה טוב, המשיח עוד יגיע בקרוב. עם אחד שיר אחד בוא אחי ותן לי יד, ונוכל לשמוח ולרקוד יחד, ליבו מנגד יד מצינגין עיניים lit, עונות גגין כן מושיח בן דוד.
JM in the AM, Am Echad, Lev Echad. That says it all, doesn't it? Monday morning at JM in the AM. A big thank you to those who got us to our amazing Total Friday and Fundraising Marathon 2015. Dedicating our visit to Israel this time around, of course, to the Sassoon family who had such a terrible tragedy, as we've all heard, and a tragedy that affected the collective Jewish heart in a very painful way over Shabbat. And that funeral takes place, all the funerals, I should say, takes place at 3:30 this afternoon in Yerushalayim. Our thoughts with the friends and relatives, of course, and everybody feeling at least a bit, if not more, of a kinship to this Hassoun family after what happened. JM in the AM, we made a commitment to continue to shore up the bond between our listeners and the State of Israel. And sure enough, we continue that commitment today by being here at the Sderot indoor playground, indoor children's playground in Sderot that was built by JNF. If you're watching at NachumSegal.com, that's what you're seeing in the background. Roni Flammer is with us. Roni is founder of the R Movement. We first heard of the R Movement years and years ago. It was founded in 2002 by a group of young, idealistic Israelis dedicated to making the dream of populating the Negev and Galil a reality. Some might add the word crazy to that description, because a lot of folks who were involved in the early days of the R Movement really thought they were taking a big risk a big chance, maybe not knowing what they were doing, and maybe they were a little crazy. Roni Flammer, welcome to JM in the AM.
Welcome.
So, was it crazy or not?
It wasn't, and it's still crazy. But
It's
to
still
be to be a Jew, it's a crazy thing, you know. It's
Can't
always
disagree
about
with
the
that.
challenge. So it's to take the challenges and the missions, and always a big vision in front of us, and or you know, the meaning of this word is light.
Right.
So we don't fight the darkness; we just adding light.
How do we judge if the first 13 years of the R movement have been a success?
Well, it's quite easy to measure because we put a very clear goal, which is to build new communities and to bring more than 20,000 people to live in the Negev and in the Galilee. So after 13 years, you can see that there are about 8 new towns and lots of places that we expanded. By the way, hand with the JNF, and of course, there are more than 30,000 people who came, and just it's getting bigger every day.
What would be a good example? Give me a good southern town example of the R movement success.
So I think that the flagship is really Karmit. It's to take a place that it's a new town that, as you just said, a crazy idea, and to say, guys, they are going to live here 10,000 people in 3 years, and suddenly, against all odds, and you know, people for some reasons like to be pessimistic about chances and the bureaucracy of Israel. I don't think that this is the right way, but suddenly you can see that in 1 year, 470 lots were made, and more than 350 families registered and started to build their homes.
Right.
And people are even, you know, making aliyah and living the Tel Aviv area and moving to this place. It's amazing, and I think that this is maybe the craziest thing.
Roni Flammer is with us. Is there any basic service that was not there at the beginning? I mean, when you and others of the young people started moving into these areas, was there such a thing as water, phone service, and things like that?
Well, everything was in the Negev, but not in every place.
Right.
So it's really to be pioneer, and it's pioneer thinking and pioneer actions.
So you remember the early days not having what? What was it like in the early days?
So I can tell you that in the first community that we established, I remember Russell Robinson coming with the first mission of JNF to Sansana,
Right.
and you know, they are looking for the bathroom. and they dare to think that there are going to be water in this bathroom. And we
Right.
said it's not the hour of the water at this day. And they say, guys, it's 2000. It's not 1948. And so I think that we were privileged even to face the pioneering spirit of the forefathers of this nation as well. And yes, it didn't start always with the electricity and phones.
Oh, I forgot about electricity, of course.
Yeah,
Right.
so it was not there from the first place, but I think that this is, let's say, these are not the big problems. The real challenge is the spirit always, and to make sure that there is a movement of young activists in Israel that still want to build this country. And
Are there still?
Still, and it's growing and
You
growing.
can tell this audience that there are plenty of young people
Absolutely.
who are ready to continue to build this land.
Absolutely. More than 30 groups that so far started their own community or their own community in existing development town or kibbutz or moshav. Even in this day, we are here in Sderot, in
Right.
this unbelievable place. And in Nachal Oz, for example, which was a flag of the last war in Gaza.
Sure.
Right now, again, with JNF, 18 families are making their way to live there in the coming summer, and 3 of them already moved because they want to be part of this community and not wait to the summer. So miracles are happening.
It sounds like it's infectious to a degree, that the word is spreading and that young people are spreading that word amongst themselves, and that spirit that you speak about seems to be as alive as ever. Which is pretty amazing.
Absolutely. We just need the courage and this leap of faith
Right.
of saying it and call to people and say, guys, there are still missions, and we found more and more. Let's say that the demand is more than the supply.
Right.
We need today to invent new products. Let's call it Zionist products, because the demand is so huge. I'm from a family that is living originally from the center
we don't call it the center anymore. The
Right.
center is in the Negev and the Galilee. But from
But
Petah
what do parents and grandparents say to people like you, especially when they left that pioneering spirit behind and built themselves nice homes with indoor plumbing in the center of Israel?
Yeah.
What do they say to people like you when you make these decisions?
So I can tell you that my grandparents, at the beginning, they didn't understand what we are doing. They said we did it when we established
Right.
this
Why
country.
do it now? Right.
And you should make money and you should
Relax.
take care of yourself. Yeah, you were a fighter in the army, so do something with your life. You are just throwing everything. So it's a process that they understood in the end of the day, and they were very proud after a few years that they understood what is going on,
And they saw
that
the
it's
growth.
not just a dream or crazy dream. And I can tell you that two of my sister and my brother moved. My sister is moving to the Negev, another brother moved. My parents are considering moving to the Negev, and I have another brother moved to the north. So the whole family is in this
You made them
madness.
into pioneers.
And yeah, but see the housing crisis in Israel,
Right.
see the gaps that we are all day long discussing just after the elections now.
Right.
In the end of the day, the Negev and the Galilee are the vision of Israel. This is the future, and this is where, in a personal level and in a very idealistic level, you can build yourself and this country at the same time.
In some communities, the mothers and the wives are pushing everybody to do this, right? The spirit of the ladies of the Jewish people is really giving a big pioneering push, right?
Absolutely. First, we know who, in the end of the day, takes the decisions. we never mistaken in this. But when we started, we had these parlor meetings that we came and we were the clowns with the crazy ideas at the beginning, and suddenly we saw that our supporters are these men who were dreaming about camels and four-wheel drives, tours, etc.
Right.
But we understood that they are not taking the decisions. So we have a condition. If there are not 50% women at the room, we are not coming. And this is the real decision makers, and they know when they have their checklist, and once they have, a good erection, and so then
Smart man.
I have 5 daughters. I have no other.
What does it say? Nashim b'chabavot ha'aretz, right? That it's really the women who love the land of Israel even more than the men of the Jewish people.
Absolutely,
No
absolutely.
question about it.
And if they, but at the first time, I remember again, JNF and us, we had a meeting with a group in Givot Bar, and they were asking them, guys, what will make you take the decision to really move, not only to come for these tours? And then they said, one of the women said, I want to see a park. I want to see a kindergarten. I want to see a synagogue. And that's how we started to develop this JNF or movement methodology of all the public facilities in these communities, and it really works. Build it and they will come, or build it and the decision of the woman will come.
Because they know what's important to raise
Absolutely.
children. Can you name a couple of other people that were instrumental at the beginning with you? Was it a lot? Was it 30 people, or were there just a couple that were?
We started. It was a Phil Fisher and his father Dudu. He's always very involved. Not only singing for us, but open lots of doors. And it was Nir Blustein and it was Zevik Yakubovich. The 4 of us.
That's
we
it.
started
4 people.
4 people. Just came back in the age of 17. Back from there is a tour for. 17 years old kids in Israel going to the camps to see what happened in the Holocaust. And
March of the Living.
Yeah, and we came back and said, not that it's not going to happen again, but we are going to dedicate our life for something that is much bigger than us, and to make sure that Israel is going to be the best country to live in. We never thought of the Negev and the Galilee. When you live next to Tel Aviv, you are not aware of it even. But the 4 of us started it. But thank God, today it's a huge movement.
When Dudu Fisher on this show first told us about his son's involvement, so I looked at him like, how did this happen? And he saw the amazement on my face, and he looked at me and he said, Reb Nachum, I don't know where I went right. Most people say they don't know where they went wrong. He doesn't know where he went right, but
he was laughing at us on Shabbat after dinner. We came to the Fisher's house, and we were dreaming about this day after the army that we'll do something. And he was entering with Tova into the room and say, "Guys, you are crazy. I don't believe it is happening in my living room."
And he's a dreamer, and he says
he's
this.
a dreamer.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Roni, it's a pleasure to meet you. A real Jewish hero, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Roni Flammer. They're doing incredible work with the R movement, and it's something that JNF. JNF's proud of all their projects, but this one they are really off the charts proud. Every single time I see Russell Robinson, at some point we get into a conversation about the R movement. It's really amazing. Ready to wrap things up on a Monday morning at JM in the AM. I thank you all for tuning in, and of course, tomorrow we're at the Dirshu World Siyum at the Nokia Center in Tel Aviv. We'll be there actually for 2 days officially, I guess, because we'll be doing the show live before the event tomorrow morning, and Wednesday's show is going to be during the event that takes place tomorrow night, so make sure to tune in and join us for that before we get back Thursday with Mayor Fertig in studio. Mayor Weingarten is coming up. Mayor Weingarten has the newest edition of the Israel show coming up at 9 o'clock this morning. Why were all the polls wrong? He'll ask in his post-election wrap-up and analysis. The unintended consequences of President Obama's pre-election actions. A survey of reaction in Israel, and what happens now, plus always the best Israeli music featuring a new Pesach song by Aaron Razel. It's all happening on the Israel show coming up next between 9 and 10 o'clock on our stream at jmintheam.org.
אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנשונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנשונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם, יוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומייחל עלייה משיבוד לגאולה. המקום ירחם עליהם, יוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומייחל עלייה משיבוד לגאולה. Hey brother, do you still believe in one another? Hey sister, know the water's sweet but blood is thicker. Oh, if the sky comes falling down for you, there's nothing in this world I wouldn't do. What if I'm far from home? Oh brother, I will hear you call. What if I lose it all? Oh sister, I will help you out. If the sky comes falling down for you, there's nothing in this world I wouldn't do. Die, die, die. I tried carrying the weight of the world, but I only had 2 hands. Hope I get a chance to travel the world, but I don't have any plans. המקום ירחם עליהם, ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומייחל עלייה משיבוד לגאולה. So wake me up when
Achenu, great song from the Maccabees. JM and the AM on a Monday. Some thank yous for the programming today and for this week. Big thank you to Miriam L. Wallach, General Manager of the Nachum Siegel Network. A big thank you to Yigal Siegel, who continues to be a great assistance whether we're in the United States or in Israel. Big thank you to Shachar Hermelin, to Jody Bodner, rather. I'm thanking Joey now. I should thank Joey as well. Why not? I'm sure he enjoyed the JNF show. Jody Bodner, to Russell Robinson, the CEO of JNF USA. Danny Goldberg, our very own, I thank him for all his help in advance of this show. The PC guy, who you could find, just search him on the web. For God's sake, you don't even have to call his phone number. Just search his name. He comes up like almost instantaneously for the PC guy. Big thank you to ZK. Big thank you to Stan in our studio. The Israel show comes up next with Mayor Weingarten. Big thank you to our friends at Travel Cell. Contact Travel Cell for your trip to Israel for Pesach. And they are responsible for getting us connected to the USA today, and I thank them for that. Thank you, Josh Melman, everybody at Travel Cell. Thank you to the Inbal Hotel, our home base. You heard Alex Herman on during our big fundraiser last week. They love donating. Their facilities to us for both studio and lodging. I thank them. The Inbal Hotel. Who am I forgetting? Anybody? Am I forgetting anybody? Travel Cell, the Inbal. A big thank you to all of them from all of us here at the JM and the AM radio program. As we said, a big thank you to all of our listeners for getting us to an amazing total last Friday during our JM and the AM fundraising marathon. Tomorrow we'll be at the Menorah Mivtachim Arena. That's the brand new name, what used to be called the Nokia Arena. We're told it's the Menorah Mivtachim Arena. That's where they're going to be doing the Dirshu World Siyum. We'll be there tomorrow live. And then, of course, Wednesday's show will be from the actual Siyum Tuesday night. So you'll be able to hear all the action. Thursday, Mayor Fertig will be back in studio at JM and the AM in Jersey City. And, of course, our hearts continue, as we've been saying all morning long, and I cannot say it enough times because the collective Jewish heart has been affected so deeply by the tragedy of the Sassoon family of Brooklyn, New York. They lived in Israel before they lived in Brooklyn, and the funerals, the burials of the 7 members of the family are going to be taking place at 3:30 this afternoon, just about a half hour from now, at Har HaMenuchot in Yerushalayim. Our thoughts and prayers with friends and relatives of the Sassoon family, of this horrific tragedy which has affected really the Jewish world collectively, not just people in Brooklyn or their immediate family and friends, but everybody was affected by this terrible tragedy on Shabbos. And that's that. We will continue tomorrow from Tel Aviv, as we said, with the Dirshu World Siyum. And that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday's JM and the AM. Miriam L. Wallach, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. We continue to meet incredible people every time we come here.
This was an unbelievable list of people today.
Yeah.
We met real Jewish heroes here today and subjects of some very interesting Yeshiva League news from the past as well. We really covered the gamut, I can tell you that much, that's for sure.
And then there were heroes.
Right,
correct. Okay, right.
Yeah, and we had people who were at Entebbe.
Exactly.
We had Yeshiva League people.
Oh, right,
and
the Entebbe guy. Right.
Achenu B'Yisrael and Achli Machem, our brothers and sisters in Israel, we are with you. It's your favorite, America's one and only Jewish Moments in the Morning radio program. Heard and listeners sponsored WFMU East Orange, WMFU Mount Hope, Rockland County at 91.9 on the FM dial, around the world on the web, jmtheam.org. And that will close out our broadcast from the indoor children's playground in Sderot. Thank you, Jewish National Fund. Tomorrow, from the Menorah Mivtachim Arena in Tel Aviv for the Dirshu World Siyum, a world event that is probably going to have over 100,000 people participate in all different locations. Will be the main one tomorrow in Tel Aviv. Mayor Weingarten is next with the Israel Show and a lot of post-election analysis. Stay with us on the stream all day long at jmtheam.org. Till tomorrow from the Menorah Mivtachim Arena in Tel Aviv. It's Nachum Siegel reminding you, remember the past, live the present, and trust the future.